Hello again, friends, and you are our friends, and welcome back to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru right here on this beautiful Monday. I don't know how it is today, but we're recording on Sunday, and it's really hot out. The AC is back on, and we are back with you. Right here on the Drive Thru, we have a packed show, questions, songs, AEW Full Gear review, as well as Jim's thoughts, this very special political themed segment on the Drive Thru where Jim gives his thoughts on the presidential election. I am the great Brian Last, your host, and of course, the star of this here Drive Thru, the exalted one of the cult of Cornette, Mr. Jim Cornette.
Oh, good Lord. Shoot up here amongst us, because one of us needs some relief. Are you slappy? Do you have election fatigue? Or that was a word salad, as the pundits on cable television say these days, of epic proportion that you just spewed forth with. Is it because you're so filled with jubilation? But I did hear cheerfulness in your voice. I did hear the cheerfulness. It was filled with cheer and spunk. You were very spunky. You were filled with spunk on that introduction, even though it was completely haphazardly done. And in any type of wrestling television programming, I would have said cut and make you do it over. But I heard the jubilation in your voice, so I'm going to let you get away with it because you're happy. You're happy. Jubilation. You know, the first time that I found God was when I heard the sermon that was preached in the town square by the Right Reverend Jubilation T. Cornpone. And I felt the energy and the life and the spirit come into my soul, much as I did the other night when all of us that were paying attention and watching Steve Kornacki on the television knew who was going to win this thing. But everybody has been waiting. Brian, you've seen it on Twitter. Jim Cornette's going to explode when they called it. When they called it, people thought he's going to explode with jubilation and happiness and jocularity. And there was no explosion. It was a fizzle. It's not that I'm not happy that and a sane, rational adult, a competent human being is two of them are now in the White House. But I told you this on the phone when we weren't actually recording. Once in a while, we speak to each other without rolling tape. The election finish went from being booked by Eddie Graham to being booked by Vince Russo. At first, it was the nail biter. Oh, my God, the heel gets the early heat. And then the babyface starts making the slow but steady comeback. And it's down to the wire in a couple of states. But then, that's the Eddie Graham part. Then it starts going on too long. And it gets boring. And it loses the plot. And you already know who's going to win by the time that it happens, if anybody's paying attention. And then, after the bell, here comes some goofy legal technicality that the heel raises that nobody believes and is kind of as a swerve, and it's kind of a fart in church. That's the Russo finish part. We said on the experience, it looks like, we're pretty sure, and that we recorded on Thursday. And then they call it on Saturday afternoon or whatever, and it had been headed that way had it not. Weren't you? You were paying attention. You're a Kornacki fan.
You know, I have to say, I am a Kornacki fan. However, I was really impressed with John King and Phil Mattingly over at CNN. I ended up watching CNN's coverage much more. I thought they did a fantastic job.
So you've bailed on Steve Kornacki.
I haven't bailed on him. I thought CNN did a better job than MSNBC in covering the election. So I ended up watching them. I usually like MSNBC.
I like Nicole Wallace.
I know you do, especially when she takes those glasses off.
Oh, boy. You can say it's the same thing as when Emma Peel used to swish that hair around right before she was going to throw a karate chop. But I digress. Anyway, but we kind of knew all along that the good guys were going to pull it out at the final hour. It was just stretched out a little bit too long and etc. So there wasn't a big pop for me, but I was glued to the coverage and still am to some extent. But especially when people when people dance in the streets because we've gotten rid of you, that's a sign you're a slimeball human being.
But, Donald Trump should feel good about that because it's one thing he has that Obama didn't have. People dancing in the streets when he was going to go away.
Hey, have you noticed it's always that way when they elect a Democrat? They dance in the street, and when a Republican gets beat, they dance in the street. It's always the same. I'm sensing a pattern here among many other things. But here is the problem that I have. Of course, I know there's no telling what he's going to come up with in the next, 72 days now, by the time you hear this. Is he going to loot the treasury and move to some Russian subsidiary somewhere? He is a Russian subsidiary. Is he going to pardon himself and his family? I'm still betting on that one. There will be no legal repercussions against Donald Trump or his crime family if he can get away with it.
Hold on, can I stop you there? Because he can't pardon himself for anything coming from the states, only for federal crimes. But how do you pardon yourself if you haven't been charged with anything yet?
Oh, I believe, am I not mistaken? Didn't they do that for Nixon? Had he actually been charged, or did he just get a blanket pardon?
That's a good point.
Anyway, nevertheless, what we thought was, oh, shit, once he loses, he's going to go nuts. He's going to have the military. He's going to have tanks. He's going to, there's something bad going to happen. He has, the whiny little bitch that he is, now that his show has been canceled, he's not even going to fucking put forth the effort on the final episodes. He's going to whine about it a little bit. He's not going to call the army. He's not going to invoke martial law. He got mad on Twitter, and what do the kids call it? Rage tweeted for a while, and then Twitter wouldn't even blocked most of his tweets because they were lies, public lies. And then he went to play golf. Brian Last, as a prideful human being, as I know you are, I will ask you this question: if you believe deep down in your heart of hearts, with every fiber of your being, that you just got screwed out of being the president of the United States, are you going to go play golf?
No.
Okay. I just want to make sure. You sad, pathetic, fat fucking slob, you. I'm talking to Donald Trump now, not you.
I was going to say, what did I do to you?
No, well, you're neither sad nor pathetic nor fat. The slob we'll talk about, but anyway, it's off the air. But so anyway, so now apparently he's going to, have all these people count all this shit over again to change it by 200 or whatever the recounts in these situations usually change it by. And Alaska has still not weighed in. They may not know he's not president till April. Over in Alaska. They're in another time zone out there, and it's in decades rather than hours. From the land of Sarah Palin. She made it to governor before they figured her out. Well, they didn't even actually ever figure her out. She just quit on that, didn't she? Anyway.
Yeah.
The best part of this, and help me, because you can and I got to mention this also. We're talking about nothing about the lead has been buried, as they say in the news business. In any other election, at any other given point in time in history, the first woman vice president, the first black vice president, the first Asian American vice president, the first vice president, offspring child of immigrants, all in the same person. And she's still like in second place because everybody's so happy to get rid of that fat orange fuck. I feel sorry for Kamala. She's not getting buried. It's historic, but that would be what everybody was dancing in the streets about in any other given century or decade or time or whatever. But she just happened to come along right after the most unpopular sack of shit that ever slimed his way into the fucking position. But anyway, As you're a Northeasterner, a New Yorker, and now transplanted New Jerseyite, it's not far away from you. The press conference that Rudy Giuliani held.
Oh my God, that was the best.
I want to tell the people. I want to tell the people, right? We are not ribbing you here, right? People in other countries, the United States, but in other countries around the world, from Pago to the Isle of Malta that are listening to us, Cult of Cornette members, Rudy Giuliani, the fucking guy who gets to eat the flies off Mike Pence's head, the Renfield in this Bram Stoker drama, who is supposedly the personal attorney to the President of the United States, Rudy Giuliani, who looks like Max Schreck in a casting call of Nosferatu, is going to give a press conference in Philadelphia because Pennsylvania was the state that turned Pennsylvania put Biden over the top. It was still it was a foregone conclusion, but Pennsylvania put it over the top. Pennsylvania was where everybody was looking at. So Rudy Giuliani is going to, and Philadelphia, the vote 90-10 just blew fat ass out of the water. So Giuliani's going to give a press conference in Philadelphia. And they announce the press conference is going to be at the Philadelphia Four Seasons. And Four Seasons, of course, is a fine upscale hotel brand here in this country and possibly around the world. But here, apparently the glitch came, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, the glitch came because one of Giuliani's staffers tried to look up the address for the press release where they called all the people from the press, the news cameras, and the radio, and the television, and the print journalists. They called them all to this address at the Four Seasons in Philadelphia, and they looked it up wrong, and they sent everybody, including Giuliani, to have the press conference to the parking lot of the Four Seasons landscaping business in Philadelphia somewhere next to, in the same complex strip mall as the Fantasy Island dildo store and across the street from, I understand, a crematorium in some slum area of Philadelphia. Am I telling a lie here?
No, that's exactly what happened. It's hysterical. And the article I first saw this in, because I saw the clip of it, it was mostly not really covered live because there were bigger things happening. And then I finally saw a clip and I was like, wow, this really looks like an outlaw mud show kind of situation here. And then I read in one of the articles that the sex store next door regularly holds something called Dildo Mania.
Hey, I'm telling you what, I've seen that on pay-per-view a time or two, boy, and I'll tell you, boy, howdy. They had the Jeff Stryker special on sale at the same time as Giuliani. That's for you folks from the 90s might get that. And they did the press conference. People, look this up on the internet. The clips are out there. They did the press conference, since everybody, all the news crew shows, I guess they found out at the same time, right? The news people probably got there first. They're like, what the fuck? Even Trump tweeted out the Four Seasons in Philadelphia and then corrected it, Four Seasons landscaping in Philadelphia, which still, I guess, to him sounded, the landscaping, like we do at the Doral.
The Four Seasons tweeted out, saying it's not here.
Said, yeah, don't come here. We don't know what the fuck you're doing. And I get this place, it's like a fucking ghetto landscaping shop. And what they did was they put on a roll-up garage door, they put their banner. It looked like fucking outlaw wrestling. They put their banner up on this roll-up door and shot Giuliani standing in front of it. So in their camera shot, he was in front of a banner. But when you see the other media shooting where he's at, he's in front of a fucking lawnmower shop next to a dildo parlor. And they had the press where that's where he announced that they were suing over all these many voting irregularities and offenses and stop the count or keep the count going or don't count this or throw his out or all the shit. And yet nobody even understands what they're talking about. And they're going to make these people count a bunch of this shit over again and get basically the same result. And they haven't even finished counting all of the from what I understand, the military ballots from overseas, which have like a week to get here by law. That's always been the case from the military folks. And they were going, in some cases, like 80-20 for Biden because Trump called the military losers and suckers. Imagine that.
I wonder how much of it's because of that and how much of it's because of the Putin putting bounties on American soldiers thing.
Oh, well, that couldn't hurt. Yeah, well, let's see. Let me pick which guy to vote for. The guy that actually had a son that served or the fucking guy that didn't do anything about the guy paying people to kill me. That'd be a hard decision to make. But anyway, and so I'm not even, everybody said, oh, he'll cut a promo on Trump. I'm not, now that he is, well, very soon, and I assume, I would have to think that everybody now is keeping a close eye on him so he can't do anything really fucking dangerous just because he's lost it. He can sit there and tweet, I won the election by a lot. But I have a feeling now that everybody knows they don't have to do what he says for another fucking couple months or so, that everybody but his family is going to be keeping an eye on him, making sure he doesn't fuck anything up too major. But so I'm not going to cut a promo on him because now we can in some ways laugh at the fat, lonely, pathetic little baby man throwing his fucking fit and not even having the fucking balls to try to be a Hitler or Mussolini. And just like, okay, show's canceled. Fuck, I'll just phone this shit in. Let's go play golf. So fuck you fat ass. But so I can't be mad and except with what we said on the experience. And I encourage everybody to go back and listen to that if they haven't already, when we pretty much knew that it was over for him and that Biden was going to win. I'm just still ashamed that it was this close. It just shows such horrible things about who we are as a people. And Joe Biden's speech on Saturday night, it's nice to have an adult in charge again. It's nice to have a human being speaking to us. It's good that he's going to immediately start, and they've reported this on the news, whether Trump wants to cooperate with the transition or not. Biden's already going to be starting to name appointments, nominations, whatever they are, before they're confirmed. He's putting the coronavirus task force together with experts. You know, everybody's going to know what the fuck they're doing. He's just been there recently. He still knows where everybody's phone number is, right? But I still think he's too optimistic, even though that's the way a president is supposed to speak to us. He's treating people too much like reasonable adults, which a lot of them have proven they're not. So I remain to be convinced as to whether that people can smarten up and see the difference between what we've had, the lunatic that we've had, and a responsible, fucking rational president. We'll see. But Pennsylvania made the difference. Our folks in the Keystone State and the city of brotherly love. You know, Brian, I've been going to Pennsylvania for years. I should have known it'd be those folks up there. They ain't going to take any bullshit. I was going to, in the 80s for Crockett, the days of being squired around by Dennis Corluzzo and Frank Chili. You know, the Midnight Express and I were quite the bells of the ball in Philly, as you might remember, for quite some years.
That's right.
They liked us there.
Of course, that's where our democracy started, was Philadelphia.
That's right. The Philadelphia, the home of independence, the Liberty Bell, Independence Hall. As a matter of fact, I've worked there in the 90s in the Spectrum. The fans are great, filling the arenas, right? I've should have known that Philly would come through because I've had such a long history there. I know those people. They're fine people that even though they don't always use their left and right turn indicator, in downtown Philly, especially, we'll give them that. But I just want to say, Philly, all of Pennsylvania, I'm so proud of you, and I'm humbled, honestly, that we were able to do this together, and that I was
what?
This responsibility that I have now. I don't honestly know. I've turned down some interview requests from some of the major networks, so I'm trying to downplay it as much as possible. Trying to downplay as much as possible what I've done here. I've saved the free world, Brian.
There was a turn here somewhere in this conversation and I missed it. What did you do?
Well, look here. We've just been talking about Pennsylvania was the state that put Biden over the top.
Yeah.
Philadelphia, especially the vote there that came in that was so heavily pro-Biden. I've just told you about my long history in Philadelphia, how popular, how over I was.
Oh, come on.
And me in the Midnight Express, and for all those years, and in the WWF, and what we've been telling the folks to vote, and the mail vote was the thing that turned Philadelphia around, remember? Because first Trump was in the lead with all the people that wanted to go out and slobber on other people in person. But the mail vote, we've been telling people on these programs to vote and vote by mail for months. And I didn't want to think it was true, that I could engineer something like this that would change the course of history. I thought that's completely ridiculous, right on the face of it. But I looked at the numbers. The vote difference in the state of Pennsylvania, Biden won right now with 98% in or whatever, 40,000 votes. And remember, that's a state that Trump won back in 2016, by what was it, half that margin? I think a very razor thin margin, but 20,000. That's a 60,000 vote swing or whatever. Do you know? And I went to not only Harry Nakamura, but also Kippelman to double check just to make sure neither one of them was lying to me.
Harry Nakamura? You mean Jace Nakamura?
What? Yeah, that's the guy. The last 30 days, Jim Cornette's podcast. In the state of Pennsylvania, they can figure this information out. We got it heavily compartmentalized. We have had in the state of Pennsylvania in the last 30 days 113,000 listens of our podcasts. And we only needed to talk 40,000, 60,000 people into making that difference. So obviously,
You're not taking credit. What are you doing exactly?
Saying, no, it was a great campaign that Joe ran. And Kamala helped as well, but I don't think it should have been that close to where that I would have had to done what I've done and stepped in and changed the course of history and turned the tide on the campaign. I don't think it should have been that close that it would be necessary for me to do it, but the numbers don't lie. When you want me to explain it to you again, I've just gone through it several times.
Let me get this straight. You think that your audience is both responsible for propping up AEW and for getting Joe Biden into the White House?
Well, every time that we do things like this, shit happens. We said, fuck it, we're going to swear the show off. We're never going to watch it again. Their numbers plummet. A couple 100,000 people. Finally, we relent because they want the entertainment of commiserating with us here on the product. So we start and boom, and they go back up. And we tell people, here's what's what. And you got to come out and save democracy. And we've got the listenership there in good old PA, and they respond. It's a responsibility that I've been given, not that I asked for, Brian. The numbers don't lie.
Are you looking for a congratulations?
No, no, not me.
Do you plan to be at the inauguration?
No, there's still a pandemic going on. I'll be watching from home. But no, I want no.
Will you be in the cabinet? Will you accept a role in the cabinet?
If nominated, I will not run. If elected, I will not serve. Except if it's my kitchen cabinet where I keep my Twinkies.
You could have been the first wrestling personality since Jim Barnett to attend the inauguration.
Well, I'd rather have been like wrestling too. I don't want to. He didn't want to go because he would have had to take his mask off. I don't want to go because I'd have to take a shower and put a suit on. Anyway.
Did you see, on this topic, and I'm trying to pull it up here while we're talking about it, did you see Linda McMahon's tweets?
Oh, well, I assume she expects some kind of money or position or something because she was playing along with the, everything must be counted and we got to make sure that nobody's pulling anything story, right?
Yeah. I mean, basically, stand with President Trump for a fair count of legal votes. Ignoring court orders and breaking state laws is the opposite. We must continue the challenge. And then CM Punk responded with
Oh, good.
With a picture of, remember when he sat on the barricade after he won the title and blew a kiss to Vince?
Yes.
It's that photo with Joe Biden's head on his shoulders.
Well, Linda's not going to run for anything anymore because she knows she's not going to win whatever the fuck she runs for. So she's going to try to get some money or do some business with Donald fucking Trump.
It's never stopped her before. Blowing lots and lots of money on a race that she had no chance of winning. She did it twice.
Well, there's no handicapped children or hungry people that needed that $70 million. As much as they needed her to be the senator from Connecticut. Anyway, Trump is now making all kinds of specious legal arguments that nobody can understand, and every legal expert that's asked says, I don't see anything wrong or applicable here. And did you hear this, Brad? He's also said to mount the legal challenges, what he said on Friday. Who knows? He may have changed his mind. But what he said on Friday was to mount the legal challenge. He was looking for a better legal team than he's got right now. Did you hear this?
I had not heard that, no.
Yes, they said he was looking at, and I don't think he's going to boot Rudy, although after the dildo shop, Rudy might be getting it. Rudy might be getting it in the ass after the dildo shop. But he wants to bulk up the whole legal team. He doesn't think that the people he's got, this is true. It's also a segue, but it's true. He doesn't think that the people that he's got can adequately prosecute this case or make this case or whatever. So he was sending feelers out for people who had done, like somebody that was with the Bush-Gore fiasco, right? And they said, no, we don't want anything to do with this because we see no case. So he's trying to find better lawyers than he's got, and they won't take the case. And we all know, I think everybody out here knows where this is going. We all know that there's only one man, if he would even deem it to talk to Donald Trump, much less take his case, but he wouldn't. He never would. But only one man in the world has the legal mind and knowledge capable of navigating those shark-infested legal jurisprudence waters and snatching Donald Trump's pitiful carcass from the jaws of defeat and putting him into the hands of victory. And we all know who that man is.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Those are the rest.
But you know as well as I do, Donald J. Trump, 45th disgrace of the United States of America, there's no way that a man with the morals and the honesty and the uprightness and the justice-mindedness of Stephen P. New would ever take a case for a slime ball like you. So, folks, since Stephen's time is not going to be taken up by pressing false claims by a disgraced president, he can handle yours. I'm not talking about false claims, or if you're a disgraced president, I'm talking about your legitimate problems. He's currently filing the cases now for the opioid litigation, the big pharmaceutical companies that have needlessly and wantonly addicted all these people to opioids. Those cases are being filed in March, so hurry up. The 3M defective military earplugs, those cases where our service members had hearing damage because of the defective equipment that they were given from the 3M company. He's filing that in the summer. Zantac litigation also in the summer is going on. Whether it's personal injury, wrongful death, harm to you in some way. They're reviewed on a case-by-case basis, but newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084, can handle any type of case and press it to its foregone conclusion, which is a cash payoff for you in the high 19 figures. I don't know how much money he could possibly get you. Good Lord. I'm surprised he hadn't retired already just on the money he's gotten from other people. Anyway, folks, Stephen P. knew he will never represent Donald Trump. So would you pick Rudy Giuliani to be your attorney, or would you pick Stephen P. New? I think the choice is clear.
I think so. I wouldn't pick Rudy Giuliani to be my dog catcher right now.
In all seriousness, I think if they do take Dracula on the road, he would make a great Renfield. Anyway, this is your show, isn't it?
It is, but
what about this rotten show you had me watch?
I was going to say, what we're going to do this week, one of the things is review the AEW Full Gear pay-per-view extravaganza, which took place last night as we are recording.
You know, when people say, I was in such a good mood, by the way, when we knew that the world was safe for democracy again, and then I sat down and watched this, and a tear came back to my eye. You know when they say that they want to do a wrestling show and you get to attract the viewers that don't like wrestling? This may do it, because there was no fucking wrestling on this program. Well, almost none.
There was some good stuff on this show.
It was disguised in the middle, heavily disguised. That's a little clue there.
I have a feeling you and I may disagree on some stuff with this event.
Well, should I just start?
Well, why not?
Don Callis joined the announcers. I guess now they're going to work with Impact, or it's just like poor little Impact. They're over there in the corner at the delinquent table, and we should be nice to them because they have absolutely no way of punching up to our weight. But because obviously he's friends with Kenny Olivier. So we had a 4-man booth starting this pay-per-view out. Why is it that one of the announcers is always dressed like a tourist just wandered in and sat down at the table? This time, did the airline lose Jim Ross's bag?
Well, like you said, it's always one of them.
It's either excrement. Sometimes he comes in looking like he just took a jog down to fucking Starbucks to get a cup of coffee. Tony Schiavone comes in looking like goddamn Hawaiian fucking Prince Iakaya. And now Jim Ross was wearing what appeared to me to be what he woke up in. Have they just said, well, fuck it, we're outdoors in Florida, and who the fuck's what? Look at the state of the people that are watching this at home. I guess they're figuring.
You know what? If Jim Ross dressing like that led to his performance, I'm okay with it, because I thought Jim Ross had one of his better nights in AEW with this event.
Well,
and at times, he channeled Jesse Ventura. One of my favorite pay-per-view events ever was SummerSlam 89. Because I loved it when I was a kid and I saw it, and whenever I watch it back, I enjoy it. There's a great feeling in that room in the Meadowlands. And Jesse Ventura was just not having Tony Schiavone. So whenever Tony Schiavone would say something, Jesse would jump on him, because at one point, it's the Warrior versus Rick Rude, and I forget what it was. Maybe the Rick Rude got hit with a chair by the Warrior on the floor. And Jesse says, reasonably, he should be disqualified. And Tony says, what would happen on the floor, Jess? And Jesse goes, so what? Can he shoot him? What if he took out a gun and shot him on the floor? You're even dumber than Monsoon. And Jim Ross, I thought he was really good all night, but there were moments where, like, I think it was when FTR, I hate to fast forward ahead, when FTR were trying to grab each other's hands. One was on the inside, one was on the outside to break the hold, and the referee didn't break it.
The double sharpshooter spot.
And Jim Ross jumped on that, and he jumped on Excalibur's bullshit reason.
Yes.
And it happened a few other times during the night. I thought Jim Ross...
Wait a minute. I'm trying to find... Go ahead. Finish that thought.
I thought this may have been the single best night of Jim Ross's AEW commentating career. I thought he was on point all night. So him dressing like a bum
Well,
means that he does a good job, I'm okay with it.
That's the thing. I can't remember where I wrote it, but it was something to the point of Jim Ross you can hear Jim Ross being verbally embarrassed and frustrated and decide to just, you know what, fuck it. What the fuck sense does that make in several instances? And so I think that he was trying to make something out of what he was seeing in front of him. So I agree with you. Every time that he can call down one of his cohorts, did excrement sound more to you like not only was he reading long, extensive explanations for backstories word for word, but also he had to fucking mention the goddamn most specific name for any generic move ever?
Oh, nonstop.
I'm surprised the headlock is not the Strangler Lewis forearm cross chin bone strangle.
You know, they keep saying tope suicida. Why wouldn't you just say suicide dive?
Well, because then somebody might halfway fucking understand it. You don't want that. It was the same thing with, I flash back over 10 years to the Ring of Honor private club, where the people who were there researched everything on the internet and wanted advanced technical movement and verbiage, and there weren't enough of them to keep the company in business, and everybody else was like, what the fuck is going on here? Anyway.
There was one point, and I can't remember what it was, though, where what you just said, it was literal. He was reading something. Yes. It was like a minute long. He just kept reading something.
Yes.
And my favorite has become, matches happening and just, Tiger Driver 98! Which means nothing to anyone, and I'm a Misawa fan, but who cares?
If they'd actually call some of these moves by a name that the guy doing it came up with, and he was the only one doing the move, such as when they were named by the fucking guy who played the fucking Tiger Mask, Tiger Driver. Now they're calling it that 20 years later. Nobody fucking knows. So everybody's lost all those moves. They can't claim any of those moves now. Anyway, speaking of claiming any moves, the opening match was Twinkle Toes McFingerbang against Adam Page for the #1 contendership for the AEW title. And before they rang the bell, I wrote, so there will be nothing left after this match for anyone else to do or the fans to care about. And that's pretty much as we'll see what happened. Go ahead.
To a point, I agree with you. However, I don't think this was the match that, I don't know if took the fans out of it's the right term or quieted the fans down.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they started a trend here that by the time that everybody else got finished, there was less and less for anybody to fucking do. As far as individually critiquing this match, are you just going to jump all over me, or would you like me to dig in on something?
No, please. Dig in.
Yeah, dig in. Take that and dig it right in there. Let me ask you some questions. Except for the most informed of AEW fans, right? Let's say it like that. If somebody has just watched the show on TNT and found this new company called AEW and hadn't seen most of these wrestlers before, unless a few of the WWE names, and they saw this event advertised and they bought the pay-per-view, when they see Kenny Olivier's entrance, do they think that it's a parody of something, but they don't know what it is, so they feel bad?
We've said it before. I'm not as negative as you are about Omega. But with that said, having him come out and be this New Japan heel again, I think that's better than what he's been doing. But the girls with the brooms is the stupidest thing. Well, I shouldn't even say that. There's so much stupid stuff. It's one of the stupidest things on this show. And it looks low rent to me. Just the two girls standing there with the brooms. I mean, I like him.
And they're not even stylized showbiz brooms with glitter. They're fucking brooms.
Yeah, they're Home Depot brooms.
And Jim Ross asked Don Callis the question, what's the fuck the deal with the brooms and the whole cleaner thing? Asked him straight out to explain it, and Don answered a different question then was answered and started talking about video games.
If he's so into cleaning, they should do the made for a day angle.
There you go. Hey, maybe he would look more intimidating in a French maid outfit. If you dressed Kenny Olivier up like Fifi, you've got a badass there. So, but the entrance is supposed to get heel heat because they're overly praising him in this big build up, and it's obviously supposed to be obnoxious, right?
I don't know.
We're going.
Let me stop you there because I think that's what it should be, and that's the way I take it. But I get the feeling that's not the way AEW takes it. Because, again, they live in a world where there's no heels and there's no baby faces, just weirdos.
But anybody watching that would think, well, this fucking asshole, that's the whole design. It's been done by heels before, this exact same thing to make people mad.
I agree with you. I completely agree with you. And in my world, in my eyes, Kenny Omega's clearly the heel. But I don't know if it's that way to their fans, based on the reaction he got from some of those people in the crowd.
Well, okay, well, let's go into that, because after the entrance of the heel that nobody hates, here comes the drunken, nervous, irresponsible babyface that nobody likes, Adam Page. And isn't this supposed to be elevating him to the singles championship level? Isn't that what we've always seen a lot in Page, and despite of himself, the things he likes to do and wants to do sometimes. He's a good-looking guy and a good talent and fucking et cetera, et cetera. We put him over, except for most of the matches he has, because they're with people like this. But they portrayed him as he was the guy that actually screwed Kenny Olivier out of the tag team belts that they had when they were partners, when he interfered in the finish. So it looked like he was going to be the heel, but then suddenly Olivier comes out with all this goofiness and the dancing girls and the overblown entrance, and he was a heel on television making obnoxious faces and beating people up after the bell.
And the Sonny Kiss match, where he just disingenuously, after the match, after he squashed Sonny Kiss, was patting him on the back and raising his hand, and yeah.
But then there was the other guy that he beat, and then he was kicking the shit out of him afterwards and had to pull him off and it looked rotten. So then Olivier, the heel that was doing all those things, offers the babyface, the drunken babyface, it's depressed, a handshake, and the babyface blew it off. So I'm completely wondering who the fuck am I supposed to be cheering for here, because both of these gentlemen seem somewhat pathetic and probably need some counseling. So then Olivier did all of his finger pointing and tap dancing. I was trying to follow it. They did moves to each other back and forth, and then they fought on the floor. At one point, and the announcers mentioned it, look at Kenny, he's talking. He was talking to himself and making ridiculous faces. And I don't know why, but I wrote, nobody's cheating. So who do we cheer for? I like Adam Page as a good worker physically. I've mentioned that he does strange things. It's related to working with a lot of these outlaw guys probably, but physically he does he performs work very well, and he's a good-looking athlete. And I want to like him every time, but I cannot unsee Twinkle Toes' weird ballet dancer movements, no matter what I do. And it's obvious that he was calling this match because it was moves back and forth with no pretense of making sense out of it, except in weird ways. The whole thing falls apart logically as a fight or a contest, but then he'll do something that the internet nerds will say, well, that calls back to his match with Okada in 2017. But his basics are so shitty, and the weird movement and faces that he made, you can't buy it as a struggle. It's a performance. That Page gave him a pop-up power bomb on the ramp, the wooden ramp with no give, and he took flat back fucking bump. And then rolled him in the ring and gave him another one and got a 2 count. If I had ever had a guy well, I won't say this because I wouldn't have been so irresponsible as to have the guy take a bump like that. But if I ever had a guy stupid enough to take a bump like that in Smoky Mountain or in OVW or in Ring of Honor, a power bomb on a wooden ramp, I would have done an angle with it to lead to a match when he came back to get even from the fucking injury. Why just do that in a fucking match and then follow it up with a move in the ring and then get a 2 count? And then they've got twice as much match to go. Then go back, folks. I know many of you don't watch these things until after we talk about them, or sometimes it's you watch them again so you can know what to look for after the powerbomb spot I just talked about. They then start trading punches. And Twinkle Toes starts throwing phony-looking punches and making the most ridiculous, phony constipation faces. Like, my God, he just can't squeeze that thing out. It was the worst 1-2 exchange, the 1-2, 1-2, with the guy standing trading in the middle of the ring I've ever fucking seen. And he won't stop making those fucking faces. Then Twinkle Toes hits a double-arm chicken wing pile driver that looked great, 2 count. And then he made some more faces and pointed some more fingers. Within 25 seconds of the pile driver that looked so good that he just took, Adam Page was back up and coming back, flipping and landing on his feet and good as new. Did you see that part, Brian?
I saw that part.
So then suddenly, like I said, both these guys have already done 2 hospitalization angles. And now Olivier's firing up. And he gives fucking Page his Snapdragon suplex, or what is it, the Petuniaplex, or whatever. And Page takes it, bounces right to his feet, clotheslines Olivier for a flip, and then picked him up and dropped him straight on his head for a 2 count. I wrote at this point, if 2 guys who were really well-conditioned athletes had been in wrestling school for 6 weeks, and you told them to have a match, this is the match they'd have. I think they have ruined Adam Page for ever understanding how to have a fucking match and work like a fucking top guy at this point ever. And then I noticed something else that I don't like about McFingerbang's work. I use work in quotation marks. I saw this when I saw him for the first time in Ring of Honor in 2006. And everybody's, oh, look at this guy. Have you noticed that he does this constantly? It's not just a one-time thing or even a once in a match. It's constantly. He will constantly turn his back on his opponent and like rev up like a cartoon run and run all the way across the ring to hit the ropes and be surprised when he's coming back and the guy comes back and does something to him or whatever, or even if he doesn't. He turns his back on the guy that he's fighting when he's only a couple of feet away from him and then runs and comes back and is surprised that he's not able to just run this guy over that had all this time to watch him run 20 feet away from him first. Am I communicating that? Turns his back on everybody.
I think he did that within the first couple of minutes of the match.
Yes.
Where he punches the ground to make some noise, yes. And then he kind of revs up, like you said, and then he runs the opposite direction. I guess,
no. On the first one was his big swan dive. So he not only runs 20 feet away from the guy before he comes back toward him, but in that case, he ran toward the guy first and hit those ropes. And then ran all the way back across the ring, the other way, hit those ropes, and then ran all the way across the ring again and expected the guy, which of course he was, to be there when he fucking dove over the top.
I like when he goes for the knee and he misses and it just looks like he's skipping.
Well,
because he's got 2 hands in the air and he lifts the one knee up and he hops.
I just thought he was happy. Anyway, so then suddenly Page goes for the buckshot lariat, but Olivier ducks it. Olivier hits him with 2 of those little knee lifts and the one-winged fairy, which he had to fight for, like that's somehow going to save Page in this atmosphere. Boom, hits him with it, 1, 2, 3. What the fuck? He just beat Adam Page flat in the ring, clean with his finish. And the heel, quote unquote, won clean over the drunk babyface. And I got news for you. For that locker room full of Japanese wrestling nerds. I don't care if they like it in a Tokyo Dome. You don't beat a top babyface clean, especially if you're a heel, if you are, or if you're another top babyface, then he still needs a fucking out, even if you didn't do it on purpose. So now they're going to push his fucking twinkle toes down our throats as the number one title contender or potentially next champion or whatever. And there's poor Adam Page. Thanks for coming. That worked out real well. What do you think?
Well, I think in terms of the finish, I liked the finish as it was. But to what you're saying, and I'm not saying this is necessarily the right philosophy you should have, the way I take it is they're clearly setting up after over a year, the Elite are going to have the titles. I would put money on Omega's going to beat Moxley and get that world championship. And I think in their minds, this sets up Adam Page for Kenny Omega. And one of the big stories is that no one has ever kicked out of the one-winged angel. And I think Adam Page, he didn't kick out of the one-winged angel. And once Kenny's champion, they're going to start building up Adam Page again for him. And I wouldn't be surprised if Adam Page is the one who eventually takes the belt off Kenny, kicking out of the one-winged angel, based off this match. I'm not saying any of this is the proper booking logic you should use, but I've been watching enough AEW that I think...
Actually, no, that actually, I do not scoff here, and I'm telling you the truth. That actually would be a great fucking long-term, that's a St. Louis-style story.
I think that's what they're doing.
The problem is, this ain't St. Louis-style talent, or at least the way they're being presented. You have to care about people first. And sure, they're the same audience they have for whatever else they're doing will care about that. And nobody else will, because nobody's going to care about them because they are so... No casual wrestling fan can watch this show. I'm just sorry. I'm just giving it. No casual wrestling fan that just liked pro wrestling can watch this fucking program and not be insulted.
This wasn't even the insulting segment on the show.
I'm getting there.
Beyond what you think of Omega, I personally thought, and again, I don't necessarily agree with the way they frame things, the babyface, the heel, but I thought this was a really good opening match. I liked the match. I wasn't as crazy about it as some people were. I saw some people thinking it was just fantastic. I thought it was good, maybe really good. I liked the finish. But, in terms of casual fans, I don't think they care about casual fans. I think this is a company...
We're not even going to try.
I don't think they're going to try. I think this is a company that's targeted directly towards the hardcore wrestling fans who are primarily all that's left. And you say this isn't St. Louis wrestling, I think to a lot of these people, Tony Khan is the Sam Mushnick of the shut-ins. Because I think he's a horrible booker, but I recently heard an interview with him, and I could tell you, if we think he's a horrible booker, he certainly thinks the very opposite. And this is a targeted wrestling promotion towards fans that are predisposed to like this kind of wrestling. It's not about casual fans or getting new people in. It's about taking the people you have and making them happy and hoping they don't go.
They could do better shit and still keep anybody happy.
I completely agree. I think
if they're happy with this, they'd be happy if you did it right.
I completely agree. But again, with this show, off the top of my head, I'm thinking, I could think of 3 other segments or matches that were completely embarrassing. This isn't one of them. I don't think
I'm not saying that. No, it wasn't embarrassing. It's just stupid, and I can't believe that they're spending their time trying to get anybody to care about the ballet dancer. But
it's
no,
their fans.
It wasn't.
The people who already care about Kenny Omega care. I'm not saying anyone new is going to care, but I think their hope is that they can spend a year, give or take, getting people to care about Adam Page so that when he wins the title from Kenny, and they'll play up the story of them being the tag team, and you don't know what you got until it's gone, and he lost to the one-winged angel, and he's going to have to redeem himself. The interesting thing is, when Adam Page finally gets the title from Omega, and Adam Page finally redeems himself, will part of the gimmick be that he is sobered up? That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. Will it be, you know what? I got to clean my life up. I'm going to stop drinking, and I'm going to get that AEW title.
All I'm saying is, once in a while, you need somebody new to take a taste of your product. That's how you expand. Now, I can understand the first person that ever ate cooked beef I could see a fucking lightning bolt hits a goddamn buffalo in prehistoric times, and a caveman smells that beef cooking and says, takes a bite of it. I can see that. Now, the motherfucker that ate the first egg, he's a brave son of a bitch, but you got to get somebody to taste something new every once in a while.
But they're not going to taste it new on the pay-per-view. The people who like the taste are the people buying the pay-per-view.
Well, then I'm about to get into a different situation with that. Then, yes, when people paid for this, there's an extra responsibility. The next match illustrates that. Pockets versus a dork jobber. Seriously, on pay-per-view. A match that nobody cares about. A match that nobody cares what I have to say about it. The match is on pay-per-view, and apparently, as I was fast-forwarding watching the time counter, they apparently gave this 10 minutes on pay-per-view because this stooge is the Money Mark's favorite wrestler. So people didn't get to see, well, for good or bad, the Brody Lees or the Lance Archers or the Jake the Snakes or the anybody else's of the world. I get Jelly's still in quarantine, I'm pretty sure.
Where is Brody Lee?
Well, I don't know. Maybe he was around Jelly. But I'd call the Consumer Protection Agency if I'd had to sit there and watch this and couldn't fast forward it. On pay-per-view, Pockets versus the dork jobber because the Money Mark's favorite wrestler is a goddamn goof that sticks his hands in his pockets. So was anything happen in this? I didn't watch it.
Well, let me start by saying I didn't watch the whole thing. And I have been, like with Kenny Omega, I haven't been as hard on Orange Cassidy as you, although when I think back, I've hated almost every segment he's been in. But I've seen some good things. So I've seen some things where I'm like, okay, maybe, we'll see what this is. So I watched this match, because you know what? Shouldn't say everyone, a lot of people are raving about John Silver, that he shows a lot of personality, that apparently on the Young Bucks right-wing comedy show, he's one of the highlights. He's pretty funny. He's obviously been one of the main people who's turned the Dark Order from being this sinister, dark cult into this group of comedy friends. I said, okay, let me see where this goes. And I got about a minute into this match and I realized, and I'm not even one of the people that hates Orange Cassidy as much as some others do. I said, I have seen this before. I've seen all of this before. The slow hands into the pockets, the slow kicks to the shins. It's been over a year. I've seen the exact same thing over and over. I've seen his entire act. I know you hate that term with wrestling. It fits here. I've seen his entire act over and over and over again. And as entertaining as John Silver may be, and I must admit, I have found him to be somewhat entertaining. I wasn't going to waste any of my time when I knew this was going to be a long show, and when I also knew there was news happening on TV. I wasn't going to waste too much time watching this. I fast-forwarded a little bit. I saw John Silver rip the pockets out of his jeans. I thought, all right, about time. And then I fast-forwarded so much, I didn't even see the finish. I read that Orange Cassidy won, but I've seen his entire act. I've seen everything he can do. I've seen him be the sloth. I've seen him actually speak. I've seen him do his fire up and do high spots all of a sudden and wake up. I've seen him do his hands in the pockets, dives and kip-ups. I've seen everything he does. I don't need to see it anymore.
And this surprises you.
No, it doesn't surprise me.
No. You should have seen this coming. We have seen this coming. When you are a comedian that only knows one joke, your act doesn't last very long.
Yeah, eventually you didn't want to hear Dice Clay do his nursery rhyme because you heard them all.
Exactly. Hickory dickory dock. Shut the fuck up. I've heard it. I know where it's going. Orange fucking Pockets worked just like a lot of these guys worked. And this is, again, what, I'm sorry, the indie crowd this generation that's grown up and doesn't understand what it was like in days gone by when the veterans were in charge. That joke, that one joke that comedian has works in every fucking club. Because he's in a different club every night in front of 200 or 300 people telling a joke in person. It's not on TV. That's why all the comedians hated to go on the Tonight Show, because then they had to work up all new material. They'd spend a year doing new material to get a new act together. They'd do it on a Tonight Show one night. They had to change their shit. This stuff worked on the indie level because the fucking idiots saw it in person and they popped for it in their little building. All the silliness. But once you put it on TV and you're starting to see it every fucking week, it's the same shit over and over. And some way they'll figure out that he can save the chuckle fucks when they get in a little beef. Or he can jump off the top rope and fall onto people from out of nowhere. Or you can just see him pop up. I'm surprised every once in a while they don't have somebody go in the bathroom and lift the lid to take a shit and there his head pops up.
Remember early on in AEW, there was that one backstage brawl where all of a sudden they accidentally kicked open the bathroom door and he was just standing in the bathroom.
Yes, he was hanging out in the bathroom like he was waiting for somebody else to finish with the stall that had the glory hole. You know, fuck. And you would think that AEW would have the budget where they could knock a decent-sized hole in each one of those stall walls for just such an occasion. But anyway, no, we didn't watch this. I don't care about this. Nobody else does either. Any closing thoughts on Pockets?
No, like I said, I haven't been as negative as you and others have. But with that said, I've seen his act. I don't feel like I need to see it anymore. By the way, that goes for the best friends as well. I have enough of them, but specifically with him because he's purely a comedy act who then breaks into seriousness and then goes back to the comedy. I've seen it all. Even if I liked it, I've seen everything he can do.
I'm just saying, if you haven't figured out long before now that you've already seen everything, then you need help. You need somebody to talk to. You need counseling, Brian Last.
Me?
If you haven't figured, but you know what the definition of insanity is? It's doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. Every time you watch a My Little Dog Pockets match, you are exhibiting signs of insanity because you're somehow subconsciously thinking that this time it'll actually be good, and you know it never will be. Folks, if you need counseling, if you need somebody to help, if you need somebody to talk to, especially in these days when you're closed up in the house, because there's still a pandemic, even though the world is safe for democracy again, everybody's still contagious. And that alone would bring you some anxiety. So stay in your homes and use our friends at BetterHelp. BetterHelp is professional counseling done securely online. You can start communicating in under 48 hours with folks with a broad range of expertise available. It may not be locally available in your area. You don't want to go out. Don't worry. This is service for clients worldwide by phone or video sessions. You don't have to sit in a waiting room, and you can work with them to pick your therapeutic matches so they can make it easy and free to change counselors if you need to. But it's more affordable than the traditional offline counseling because BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. Brian, I urge you, if you continue to watch matches involving our little dog Pockets, visit BetterHelp.com/drive. BetterHelp, HELP.com/drive. Join the over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional and get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/drive just because you listen to us. Brian, I encourage you to take advantage of our own services here.
I may have to place a phone call after we're done with this recording.
BetterHelp.com/drive. Did I give you a phone number?
I guess I'll be emailing or going to a website.
Well, there you go. Don't forget /drive.
Okay.
All right. Do you remember chronologically what came next?
I think it may have been the TNT Championship match.
It may have been the only reason to spend any time on this sorry journey through hysteria that they called a show. It was the best match of the night. It wasn't even close. And then they still screwed it up at the end, but we'll get to that. But here's what okay, let me walk you through this as it happened. Darby Allin came out into the arena with his painted car and broke the windshield with his skateboard. How the heck is he going to get home when he keeps breaking his own windshield? Why is he mad at his own car? I mean, I've done that. Remember, In Atlantic City, I took the baseball bat to my car, but that was after they'd already broken the windshield.
I'm guessing this may have been a rental. He lives in Washington.
Where are you going to rent a car that looks like that?
I don't know. He's
See,
not.
that's
You
the whole
think he's
thing.
driving it across the country?
That's what I'm saying. This doesn't make any sense. If it was his car because it's painted up like him, then it would mean something. Why would he break his own? It doesn't. It does not make sense. If Chewbacca, never mind. Here comes Cody, and Cody is announced. What?
Here
What's
comes
the matter with
Cody with a group that's somewhere between 17 and 6,000 people that come with.
Well, I wrote down. There's Brandy, and there's Dustin, and there's Arn, and there's the Guns, and there's about 4 or 5 other people, and there's Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod, and Happy, Dopey, Sleepy, Doc, Grumpy. But then Arn stays because he's the coach, and the rest of them walk back because they just came out for moral support. I was wondering a few things during the introductions. Why does Darby Allin look so miserable and dejected all the time? And I figured, does he have to watch these shows too? I thought it was just us.
Maybe he's thinking, what did I just do to my car?
Well, there you go. Because goddamn, I don't have the fucking no-fault engine. Darby Allin is now announced at 173 pounds. A few months ago, was it not 155? And we commented on that.
Well, he's made some money. Usually when people start making money, they enjoy some better meals.
He ain't a goddamn ounce bigger. But 173 sounds better than 155 when he's fighting Cody. And it was nice to hear Cody get his name back. Cody Rhodes. As far as this match, I sat back and thoroughly enjoyed it. Cody was doing the old-fashioned subtle heel thing. Hey, kid, young kid, inexperienced. I'm going to play with you a little bit. Don't get too fucking froggy and start hopping. He didn't come out and cheat, but he was the old NWA title style subtle heel. When even the babyface champion, when he'd go in against a local kid, he would have to rough it up a little bit to get the sympathy behind the underdog. And Darby Allin is a great little underdog. You can tell that Cody put this together. It made perfect sense. Nothing looked stupid or ballet-like with the footwork, happy feet taking you out of the moment. I thought Cody tossing Darby Allin over the top rope to the ramp flat back on his arm was a little goofy, but that's Darby Allin. But then Cody worked the arm the rest of the fucking match. He got the obnoxious heat. Darby Allin had to fight for his comeback in the middle there. He blew a nice false comeback in the middle, and that worked. Because Darby Allin can sell, and he was there for everything physically. Kids got mentally, for whatever reason, even though he's apparently a lunatic in every other way, kid can work. I like they did the spot where they exposed the turnbuckle, but they did a false finish with it to Cody's chest, not his fucking head. That gave me the thought, well, maybe they'll use that later on. But nevertheless, I thought, again, the crossroads off the top rope into a rope break, I thought was a little much. The goddamn, I love that Cody's trying to get the kid over, and he's doing a wonderful job of it. But Jesus Christ, some moves should be at least a finish, if not a hospitalization. Such as when Darby was on Cody's back, and Cody climbed up the top rope and fell back off the top rope. But Darby rolled to the floor, so there was no count. Thank God there wasn't a 2 count there. I like it when Cody got frustrated that Darby wouldn't die and gave him multiple body slams, but was taking his time in the middle. He'd pick him up and he'd slam him like a sack of shit. So it wasn't like he was constantly beating him up because Darby has to fucking come back here in a minute. Would they milk the belt thing? I don't know. But then Darby foils him and trips him up and does a couple of moves and hits the coffin drop. And I'm like, yes, and it was a 2 count. And I'm saying, well, where the fuck are they going now? Because I thought as much as I figured this was going to be a Hail Mary win for Darby after he got manhandled and mistreated to this extent during the match, right? But after the coffin drop, Now they've jumped the fucking shark, to borrow a Fonzie. Darby then suddenly he escapes the crossroads. They do the series of reversals of the roll-up. And then Darby suddenly wins. He was going to win anyway. Why not the coffin drop? That's his finish. If you're going to put the guy over, and Cody, I'm just saying, I think you were genuine in your want to put the guy over. But if you go back and watch that match, and when you get to that point where bing, 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 and he hit that coffin drop, if he's winning the match anyway, that was the finish. That's his finish. It'd get it over. Cody's going to do a job anyway, and the rolling around with the fucking reversals, was that a hat on a hat, Brian Last?
I thought it was okay. I didn't have a problem with the finish.
Well, what else did you have a problem with?
I can't really complain about anything with this match. I thought it was a really good match. I thought it was the right finish. I thought Darby had to go over. I guess the only thing I can't complain about, and this is an AEW-wide problem, it is one that has inflicted Cody matches before, either be a heel or be a face. You can't be a face before the match and a face after the match and then a complete heel during the match. I was thinking after Darby won, there was a moment there where I'm thinking, okay, Cody's now going to do a full heel turn, and it'll be great. He's been acting like a heel this whole match, and I've been buying it. I've been buying Cody the heel. And then, of course, he becomes Gracious Cody and just presents him with the belt.
Gracious Cody.
Leading into the angle after the match. But I guess that's my only thing is just, and Cody's been the guy more than anyone else who constantly defends the idea that there's no baby faces and no heels. We don't need the tired wrestling tropes of the past.
But, you
need a lot of tired old wrestling tropes in AEW.
You know what? Well, yes, many more. But you know what? Here's I see what he's doing, and maybe I see where he's at, and he just doesn't recognize he's the only one that can get away with that because he's the only one that knows how to do it. Everybody else is trying to do it too, and it just comes off like shit. With Cody, and I agree, he goes back to the smiling promos, and everybody's happy, but he wasn't. He was a good old-style heel in this match that still didn't do anything morally that a babyface would not do. He was rough. He was a little obnoxious. He toyed with the kid, and then he got mad when he got pressed. But he didn't kick the guy in the balls behind the referee's back. He didn't steal anything. The problem is Cody is good at doing that type of match. And like I said, maybe think Dory Funk Jr. when he was always a babyface when he was NWA champion, but when he would come in and work with a babyface, he'd get rough and he'd take advantage because he was better and he was more experienced. That kind of, when the Briscoes turned heel and in the Carolinas, they actually had heel matches on television by just out wrestling the guys legally in such a obnoxious, prickish way. There's different ways to get heat. Cody can do it. I see what he's trying to do, and he does it well, but because he's on a show with a bunch of people who are doing the same thing and can't, it fucking makes it, imagine this, mean less.
Well, the other thing is, based on the way he was working, based on his facial expressions, based on everything I see, even with MJF there and anyone else there, I think Cody has the potential to be the best heel in the company.
Well, in the ring, I mean, MJF is just the prodigy speaking, and we'll get to that.
Hey, listen, you've seen Cody's promos. If Cody went full heel, I bet you there'd be better promos. I bet you he'd be fantastic just letting the fans have it. And
I can see that.
I think he has the potential to be the best heel in the entire company.
Well, where I was going, but he instantly would be in the ring because he knows what to do either way. He's the best worker. Mentally, I'm not talking about physical. Well, sometimes physical, but I'm talking about mentally. He's the best worker. He knows what to fucking do. But here the problem is, apparently even though he's an EVP, he's still saddled with the same booker, because I assume that Cody put this match together, and I assume that the amateur booker put the angle afterwards together. So Taz, who he and Starks and Cage were mad because they weren't on the show. They said they'd be there somewhere or another, right? And they've had an issue with Cody. I understand all this. But Taz comes out, starts cutting a promo on their bitch asses, distracts them so Starks and Cage attack from behind. Boom. And they beat up Cody and Darby. And they take the TV title belt, and Cage carries Darby into the arena, quite a ways away from the ring, and throws him through one of the lighting fixtures. Everything has to be a movie stunt. There's no reason that this... Anyway, then they try to slam Darby's arm in the door of his own car. But guess who makes the... Because Cody tries to get there, but he's beaten down. Guess who makes the save? Will Hobbs. Wonderful Willie Hobbs, baby. What the fuck? They jumped these guys. They beat shit out of them in the ring. One guy carried the other one out back, out in the arena. Cody had time to get there and try to save him again. They threw him through the light fixture. Then they got him positioned in the door. Finally, Will Hobbs comes out. Brian, where were Cody's 47 seconds trainers and assistants that walked to the ring with him 15 minutes before this?
That was my exact thought.
If it was such an important match to them that they had to come out and get introduced and be seen on television, wouldn't they be watching the monitor at the closest available position? But yet none of them came out. No referees tried to stop this. Nothing was tried to, except the guys that were getting beat up tried to fire back a little bit until here came Will Hobbs, because we got to get Will Hobbs over now. Because that's booking 101. He's got to save the baby faces.
Well, even better than that, the Gun Club, Billy Club. I don't even know if he's allowed to be Billy Gunn. Maybe he is Billy Club now.
No, he's Billy Club and Austin Gunn. That's going to be what we call him
So
now on. I love you, Billy.
Billy Club and Austin Gunn, they were out there as part of the Nightmare family. When they weren't out there with the Nightmare family, I guess they went right back to their ringside seats for the rest of the night. They've been sitting ringside the whole show before and after this match. They couldn't run out there and help. Dustin and QT couldn't run out there and help. The other guy, I don't even know who he was. He couldn't run out there and help. I mean, it's just so ridiculous.
Didn't get a pony. Any other guy didn't get a pony. So that was my favorite match on the show. An excellent piece of business that did pretty much what they wanted it to do. And then these two guys getting this other fucking fiasco, and everybody's going, what the fuck? So even when they get something, they can't leave it alone. Their finishes last too long. Their matches go too long. They have too many steps in their angles where it just gets beaten into powder and then becomes bleh. The next contest. Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose with Vicky Guerrero for the women's prestigious AEW Women's Championship. I guess. Because I invoked one of the rules. You know what rule it was?
No, which one?
The long fucking show rule. Because this is what this was turning into. And I fast forwarded this to the finish, which was enough for me. Brian, is there anything in the match that I missed that I should have seen had I been interested?
Well, funny enough, I invoked a similar rule, which was, I don't care about this match or this division. I'm not going to force myself to watch something I completely don't care about. I went to the finish, and then the Vicky Guerrero screaming at Nyla Rose and leaving her there dejected as she walks off.
We'll get to that, because the finish was something to write home about. And let me see if I saw what you saw, and then you can say if you saw what you saw. Say, what's your sister's name? Sue? What does Sue do?
What?
She sews. She sews? See. My sister Sue, she sews. See. Ed Sullivan. What the fuck? Anyway. So you can tell who's running this women's division, folks.
Ed Sullivan.
No. Although Ed Sullivan would have booked Twinkle Toes McFingerbang to do his ballet dancing, prissy prancing, and gesticulating on the Ed Sullivan Variety Show. But, the Japanese schoolgirl. After this long-ass match that apparently went about 10, 15 minutes.
Well, let's be fair. She's not a schoolgirl.
Oh, for Christ's sake. Nyla Rose is a 230-pound, Native American beast. And this girl is half her size. So
yeah, but that doesn't mean she's a schoolgirl.
Okay, so
Rhonda Singh was 500 pounds. That didn't mean Medusa was a schoolgirl.
For heaven's sake.
Maybe not.
I
500.
don't even know. I don't know. I think you need to work on that analogy.
Maybe not 500 pounds, but
I would work on Rhonda Singh's weight, and I'd work on what Medusa Michelli looks like standing next to Hikaru Shida. But I digress. The young Japanese girl who weighs 120 pounds superplexed the 230-pound opponent off the top rope, had her covered, and then pulled her up at the 2 count to beat on her some more. Did I see that correctly?
Oh, yeah, you did.
Okay, then Shida hits the ropes. Vicky Guerrero goes to trip her, but misses her leg, and Shida goes down anyway. Then turns around, looks perplexed, gets out on the apron. Nyla Rose knocks Shida to the floor, grabs Shida. Oh, at first Vicky gets a kendo stick and referee takes it away from her. And then somewhere or another, Shida pushes Rose into Vicky Guerrero. Vicky goes down. Shida throws Nyla Rose in the ring and tosses her around like a sack of shit, picks her up and slams her down a couple of times. Am I seeing this correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. A shitty suplex and a 2 count. Then a knee lift and a 2 count. Then she just stood there and hit her with 5 old shitty knees, boom, 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 and then just fell on top of her. 1, 2, 3. What the fuck? Thanks for coming, Nyla. You're fucking done.
I don't even think the finish was as bad for her as the angle afterwards.
Well, wait, I'm not there yet. The superplex couldn't be the finish where this girl, all or nothing, Hail Mary, got this giant beast up off the top rope and superplexed her. It could have covered her 1, 2, 3 because she's going to win anyway. But instead, they did get up and it pulls her up like a job guy or job girl. Goes to beat on her some more. She almost gets fucked by the manager. There's a clusterfuck out on the floor that looks like shit. Then she just rolls Nyla Rose back in and just hits her with a few things, none of which looked nearly as good as the superplex. Nyla Rose has no answer for any of this, no comeback whatsoever, is just sitting there getting her head kneed in, and then she just falls on top of her 1, 2, 3. And that was a preferable finish to beat her with the superplex off the top rope. But somebody's going to say, oh, but they had to do a spot in the finish with Vicky and Nyla. Well, then do it before the fucking superplex. You're making this shit up. Lunatics. So then, as Shida, we ought to call it, since she does a shitty suplex, we ought to call it, Shida should be like the proprietor on South Park of Shitty Walk. You have my shitty Mongolian beef, my shitty chicken, my shitty pork. She's got her shitty suplex. And then Shida walked on off. And then Vicky Guerrero's cutting a promo on Nyla, screaming at her. So, of course, the announcers lay out and they turn the ring mics up level so that you can hear the screaming and yelling, so that when Vicky screams at Nyla, Nyla screams back, slap me. And she does. Vicky does. Bam. And then she walks off and leaves Nyla standing there. So this 230-pound Native American beast was beaten like a dog by a girl half her size, just beaten flat in the middle of the ring after fucking up and hurting her manager. Then her manager berates her. Then she tells her manager out loud to slap her in the face, which her manager does, and then walks off on her and leaves Nyla standing there with a dejected look on her face. Why didn't they just piss on old Nyla Rose while she was out there? The fuck? Your closing thoughts?
I got nothing else I could add to that.
Okay. Because we got to move on to the long-awaited Dream Tag Team match. This lasted 30 minutes bell to bell. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Tully Blanchard was banned from ringside because, and they tried to, that's when excrement went off reading one of those long, because I think they'd got
that was it.
They'd gotten browbeaten for why did they ban Tully just out of nowhere? And so they recapped basically every time he'd ever made a motion toward farting in somebody's general direction as a reason that he's banned. But he came out with the team, high-fived them, and then left and was never seen again. He didn't try to come back and run out in the finish to be foiled. He didn't dress as a woman and come in and hit somebody with the purse. He really left and never came back. In that case, that used to be banned from the building. Why would you show the fucking guy that's banned? Then it's a letdown when he doesn't come back. If he's not allowed at ringside, why would he be there? It used to be that's the ban from the building, and then the guy has to somehow sneak into the building dressed as a popcorn vendor or whatever, but they're not that creative here. Anyway, I'm going to save this for here in a minute. I wrote down some thoughts. But anyway, Jim Ross asked, does anybody know why Tully was banned? And that's when Excrement read the manifesto. And I just, as this started, my hopes sank because they could have done something different. They could have done something that would register with people. They could have done something that would keep some intrigue going. But instead, they just had basically a Young Bucks tag match. Same thing as Pockets, just with more moves. Everybody's seen it. Same thing. You know it's coming. And having to watch FTR wrestle competitively and or act physically intimidated by these fucking middle schoolers gives me the sour belches. But it's the same match the Bucks always have it. It's better because the FTR can work. And my God, especially Cash Wheeler was a madman trying to get this thing over.
Oh, yeah.
And I just wish he hadn't had a impossible mission in front of him. So Buck Hogan, Pie Face, the man with the bad leg, right? And of course, we've gone into this with Pie Face, Buck Hogan. He'd had his leg Pillmanized because now apparently he really is injured. He's got a problem with his ligaments in his knee. And he did it, imagine this, jumping off the entranceway with a flying elbow drop through a table on one of their shows this past summer. But he's working on it. We mentioned on the last week's TV program, he would do everything that he normally does, and then immediately afterwards and in between, he would limp like he could barely walk. So at one point, he's in this thing, boom, 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 and he does something to FTR, I believe, knocks Cash off the apron. Dax is in the middle of the ring staggering, and did you see Pie Face is on the apron. He climbs to the top rope, Pie Face does, looking away from the ring, does a backflip off the top rope, lands on his feet in the middle of the ring and sells his bad leg. No shit. What was he trying to do? There was nothing. Dax was just staggering around in the ring. He was not in position to take any move there.
Nowhere near him.
There was no offensive move to be done. He just did a backflip in the middle of the ring and fucking landed on his feet so he could sell his leg. I ran that back and had Stacy. She was going through the kitchen. I said, Stace, watch this. This guy's had a bad leg. He's selling it. Here's the story. Watch what he does. She just busted out laughing and walked off. So then they got heat on Pie Face. And the match started making sense again because when FTR is in control, at least it makes sense. Except, of course, for the, Bucks' whiny little heel bitch turn the last 2 months where they were super kicking the announcers and being whiny little bitches. And now one of them selling for the heels and we're supposed to care. Then FTR went for their Powerplex, the Superplex and Splash combo. Got the Superplex, but old Pie Face put his knees up on the Splash and Cash sold it and rolled out of the ring. The guy with the bad leg put his knees up. The guy came off the top with a Splash. That didn't of course, he sold his leg and then immediately small package Dax. That couldn't blow this guy's fucking leg. He's invulnerable. Cash took the insane bump over the top in the corner like a backdrop. I haven't seen anything like that since like George Barnes came to fucking the United States and was taking bumps, him and Dundee. It was insane.
That was nuts. I've never seen anyone take a bump like that.
I mean, you got to give, he knew that this thing, I think, he knew what it was. He was trying. Pieface hits a DDT and then just crawled over after the heat and gave Balding Buck an ice cold tag with no possible way that he could have been stopped, to the point where when Cash comes in, he just put the brakes on because the guy was already across the ring by that time. And just like, what the fuck? They do not understand the first thing about legitimate tag team wrestling. So Balding Buck made the comeback there. 2 grown men had to fly for this 30-something juvenile delinquent reliving his teenage years on his backyard trampoline. And Tony Schiavone at one point in commentary, I've read their book. Why, Nick at one point in his backyard just gashed his leg open jumping on a chain link fence. Would somebody tell that story about a fucking NBA player? Yeah, he was trying to dunk in his backyard and he fucking gashed himself open on his chain link fence. Anyway, then they start going back and forth, and their Peg Leg Pete ended up back in limping between doing all the shit that he normally does. FTR hit the Steiner Brothers finish, the Bulldog off the shoulders, off the top for a 2 count. Looked great, 2 count. The Hardy Boys, the fucking Balding and Pieface Buck, got the big false finish with the Hardys move. They did more tagging in and out. Remember when we talked a few weeks ago on when the tag teams start tagging in and out after the big comeback, it's spiraling downwards. At one point, I think Pieface started selling a different leg than he had been. I'm not sure. FTR hit another finish on Pieface for a 2 count. I wrote, will this ever end? They did the double sharpshooter spot that made the reanimated corpse referee look like a complete idiot that JR had to bring up and fucking say, well, that doesn't make any sense. They did more false finishes. Then, did you see the part where Pieface brought a chair in and Corpse Ref, the Tim Burton production, instead of taking the chair away from him or trying to take the chair away from him, he stood back and asked him not to use the chair, and then the referee asked Pieface's brother to ask Pieface not to use the chair. And then he didn't use the chair. So it's optional now. The referee has no power to enforce the rules, but he can ask your brother to ask you to play fair. Is that what I was seeing?
I think so. He's a horrible referee. He's always the referee for the Young Bucks matches.
Because he's useless and spineless and a limp dick, and he lets them get away with everything because they can't work any other way. So then FTR came out of another predicament with a real nice, neat spike pile driver. Boom! That was a false finish. Dipshit got his leg on the ropes. So then they took Pieface's boot off. And he get an inverted figure 4 on his bad leg with a fucking ankle lock on his bare foot. He wouldn't tap out. Then Cash is taking bumps like Chris Colt all over the fucking place. Another big false finish on FTR. Then the match came to a standstill. Then Cash knocked Pieface out with a fucking kick. Boom. And instead of covering him, Cash, the no flips, just fist guys, climbed up to the top rope, or didn't climb up, did a springboard, went up to the top, springboard, boom, 450 splash into the ring and missed it. And Pieface, with the bad leg, that's had everything done to him, hits a super kick. 1, boom, 1, 2, 3. New champions. Young fucks, old champions, FTR, EVPs, young fucks, waste of money, killed careers, FTR, wasted potential, FTR, wasted potential dream tag team match program. This is pretty much the end of it, ain't it?
I think you're being a little overly dramatic about it.
Is there a rematch to be called out of this?
I think
this fucking guy is ready to have his leg amputated. They did everything they possibly could do to any human being, and he beat him with a fucking super kick in the first meeting between these two teams after this dream match that supposedly got started on social media 4 years ago. The alleged baby faces that we're not sure about beat the heels that we're pretty much sure they're supposed to be heels, because at least they got the manager, even though he wasn't at ringside. They didn't even have the manager fuck his own team accidentally. He just beat him. And once again, yes, Tony Khan's a complete amateur idiot that doesn't understand the first thing about wrestling psychology and what he's doing. The Bucks should have picked this up, but I say again, they know they're doing this on purpose. They brought these guys in on somebody else's fucking dime to beat them first time in and prove and even go in with a handicap and still beat them. And now they've undisputedly proven in their minds they're the best tag team in wrestling. So this was basically a goddamn California local yokel fucking backyard version of Hogan getting WCW to hire Warrior so he could get his job back. What the fuck? And then Olivier came out to hug and kiss his friends. For all the people that kept saying, go to AEW, manage FTR, this is why that never was ever going to fucking take place. Thanks for coming, FTR. 30 fucking minutes. Give me your thoughts, and then I'll tell you what they could have done.
Well, let me just say, I didn't like the finish, but I really liked the match. It was one of the best Young Bucks matches I've ever seen. FTR were phenomenal. You and I have talked about the fact that Dax is one of the best workers in the business. I think the one positive of FTR and AEW so far has been the exposure that Cash is spectacular. He can do power moves. He could do chain wrestling. He could fly all over the ring in a way that doesn't look ridiculous. Very impressed with him. More and more impressed with him each time I see him. The Bucks have certain things they can't get past. You know, they're never going to have a classic tag team match, the likes of which we had seen in the past. They're never going to have a match that doesn't have tons and tons of near falls and false finishes and hitting every big move and kicking out of it. If you could accept those facts, which is something that permeates all of modern wrestling, everyone kicks out of everything. Big moves don't matter. If you could accept that, I thought the match was really, really good. I really liked it. I wasn't happy with the finish. I wasn't happy who got the finish.
When they got to the last 10 minutes of this thing and it would not end, and they had long since lost the plot of what they were trying to do in the beginning, you still stuck with this.
I still stuck with this. I thought the match got better and better. It took a little while for the crowd to get into it. But I had a very similar thought last night to what you just said about Hogan in WCW. You know, remember, who was it? Was it Scott Hall or Kevin? I think maybe it's Scott Hall who put over Rey Mysterio, but he really didn't put him over.
Nash. It's Nash, I believe.
That was the Young Bucks in Private Party. And this is Hulk Hogan bringing in people just so he can get a win. Like you said, the Warrior. That is what this was, because this whole feud, I really like this match. So taking just this match itself out of the equation, this feud has been bungled from day one. They have managed this thing and handled it poorly from day one. Whatever the hell the Bucks have been doing for the last couple months, their pseudo heel turn, but somehow they're not heels. I mean, you can't watch this match. If you go back and watch this match, at least the first half of it, FTR are working like baby faces. And the Young Bucks are the heels.
And then finally they cut Pieface off, and then suddenly it's reversed.
This whole thing has been done so poorly. I don't think this kills FTR. I think there's plenty to still do with FTR.
This dream tag team program.
The whole program has sucked. I mean, beyond the match, the dream tag team program has been completely handled. This is like WWE handling the WCW invasion. It's been handled completely wrong. We'll never get that back. FTR now are just an AEW tag team. They're probably the best tag team in wrestling in the ring. They're really good. They haven't been used properly, but they're now just on the roster. We're never going to get back what would have been a special moment in front of a crowd, because they rushed it to this, of these two teams meeting. And the whole thing has been handled poorly. I don't think this kills FTR in the future. We'll see where they go. I think from day one, the plan was, in their twisted logic, hey, we're going to just put people over for the first year and then we'll give ourselves the belts. I think the same thing's going to happen with Omega. They're going to give him the belt probably in early 2021. And then the Elite will have the belts, which is what they wanted from day one.
All right, well, you just said, well, it's the program. This was the first meeting. You said they rushed it up. They could have had it in front of people. They could still have the big one in front of people, because this was the first one. You lunatics. How can you not think about this? This wasn't supposed to be the classic match. This was supposed to be what hooked people, what made them wonder, what established it, despite the fact that they've botched the whole build-up and everybody's positioning and everything. Why didn't they have worked this match smart? Make people notice instead of FTR immediately work. There's been this supposed bad feelings and bad blood and jealousy over whose style is better. The Young Bucks, the Flying, the Backyard, or FTR, no flips, just fists. We're legitimate wrestlers. Don't just have a fucking match like you do with everybody else. Do it smart. FTR, instead of working with them right away, and especially instead of doing the Bucks shit right away, don't cooperate. You work the match. Remember what I said about the Briscoes being such good amateur wrestlers? They were able to be heels in the Carolinas by not breaking the rules, but by being pricks about it. You don't mean to tell me that you don't think that people would believe that either Dax or Cash, if they wanted to, could take the fucking Bucks down, either one of them, and fucking tie them up?
Oh, of course they could.
Okay. Then the Bucks should have started locking up like they were going to get ahead and work, and the fucking FTR should have started taking them down and cross-facing them and rubbing them a little bit and laughing about it. And there should have been the struggle where there's not cooperation, but they're not shooting with each other. They're not punching each other in the face. But no, you're going to do what I want you to do. And the Bucks should have got pissed about it, but they can't really do much because these guys can fucking stretch them. And show some obvious lack of cooperation. We're not going for your shit. We're going to strong arm you. We're going to make you do what we want you to do. People, the smart audience that AEW has, would understand that kind of shit. And then when somehow the Bucks finally fucking came out and exploded with some shit, set it up so that FTR could take it without showing obvious cooperation. And what are they going to do? Not take a bump or whatever and expose the business, or they got to eat it. In other words, a fucking struggle of a match because you got two competing styles and philosophies. Make it don't look like you're just doing each other's shit. And then FTR could have fucking took one down and got some fucking heat and made it look like they really didn't want him to fucking tag out and flip the partner, blow him off or whatever, and have the fucking partner complaining to the referee. And then go into a fucking tag and a comeback and let the Bucks get a couple of their moves in, and then one member of FTR obviously sandbag something when they try to pick him up and small package the little asshole and fucking cinch up on him while the other partner has the other guy outside the ring or immobilized, cinch up on him. 1, 2, and the referee don't want to do it. He can't kick out. He's trying to kick out. 3, fuck it. What the fuck? It's a double cross. Do the match in 9.5 minutes.
They put that stipulation on it, though. They telegraphed what the finish was going to be because of that stipulation.
Well, but I'm saying don't do your shitty fucking amateur booking. Do what would have been right for business. Have that match. No Bucks match last 9 minutes. They didn't do all their shit. It was obvious there was fucking a lack of cooperation and a difference in philosophy. And then one of FTR cinches up on the little prick and fucking double crosses them, flips both of them off, grabs the belt and bails. Tully comes out and hugs them. And they announce on the internet the next day that they'll be happy to give them another match if Tony Khan gives them a raise because now they got the belts. So you can have your fucking belts back. We got what we wanted. We fucked you in front of all your fucking friends on TV. Now, if you want to get a hold of us again, give us a raise and we'll talk. People be going nuts. Did they really double cross them? What the fuck's going on? They're holding them up for more money. Then you milk this goddamn next confrontation and all this other fucking hoopla that happens till maybe they do get a bunch of people back in the building. Then you have a goddamn classic tag match. But FTR don't lose the first one, and you don't automatically go into, oh, we're just all going to work together like we're friends, and we've all had our own trampoline in the backyard since we were 10. Business. Not marking out for your fucking classic matches. 30 fucking minutes. Holy shit.
That is the one sad thing with the way this finish went. FTR have a history of having great series of matches. 3-match series with different teams. It's hard to come back with match 2 based on the finish to match 1.
Okay, I'm going to depart from our format here for a second. I'm going to read an email that I should have read, but I didn't see it. Kippelman sent it to me, but I didn't see it until just yesterday when I was going through some stuff, and then it was too late to read it before this match. But it would have been a spoiler on the next event that was on this show, Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara. I think you were furnished a copy of this email too. You may have seen it, but somebody wrote to us at the drive-thru. Hello, Jim, love the show. I live in Pinehurst, North Carolina. This week, the AEW crew came down to film at Matt and Jeff Hardy's house. I think it's Matt's house. I don't think he and Jeff live together. But anyway, in nearby Cameron, North Carolina. The brothers are neighbors that bought all the land down one road outside of Cameron for themselves and their father, whom is known locally as Legend. Anyway, someone I know was hired to set up and work the lighting for the Matt and Sammy match, which they filmed Wednesday and Thursday night last week. This is apparently for the upcoming pay-per-view. My friend that doesn't watch the product noted to me that it was the stupidest thing she'd ever been a part of. She noted that they had over 300 people working the production. 300! That's got to be an exaggeration. And asked me if this was normal. I just shook my head in embarrassment. She said the cost for such a production was beyond anything she had ever seen, and also related that she had never heard of AEW nor knew it was on mainstream television. And of course, we're talking about the people who set up and work lighting and pull cable and stuff. They don't just bring in everybody for that. They have local people that do these things in these various areas. Apparently, the rule number 1 was for nobody to speak to Rebby Hardy unless she spoke to them, and don't park any production trucks, vehicles, or put any equipment by her car, which was pink. Rebby filmed a scene in the warehouse by Matt's home where she played piano, yet everyone was made to wait outside the building when she was filmed, save the camera operators. Apparently, it took a long time, and everybody was just standing around waiting. From there, they brought Matt and Sammy in to start filming, whom my friend thought was 16 years old. Sammy, I believe, not Matt Hardy. Regardless, she said Sammy was probably the nicest guy on the set. But she wondered again how any of this was wrestling, even though there was a ring on set. She just kept remarking on how much money was being spent or blown beyond the over 300 people there, whom all were booked into Pinehurst Resort hotels. Oddly, they all got double queen-bedded rooms per person, even people that lived around the area. Mind-boggling. They brought in a monster truck and had it run over a golf cart, or tried to, as it only knocked it over. They brought in other wrestlers, 2 guys that they had to reshoot over and over doing flips because they couldn't get them right, whom, based on the description, sounded like Private Party. All this stuff is coming to pass when I watch this show. They filmed a sequence where Matt and Sammy fired bazookas at each other that shot fireworks. They had to keep filming in the water by Jeff's house and a heavy sequence at a fountain when Matt couldn't get his dialogue right. The whole thing took all night, and during the time she said this guy was standing around acting giddy in a hoodie, whom after I showed her a picture confirmed it was your guy Tony Khan. She had no idea he was fronting the bill for all this. In fact, the entire time, everyone in production was remarking how much money was being wasted within earshot of him. He didn't seem to care. In the end, Matt went over Sammy, which was filmed shortly before daylight. Again, she just wondered how much money the whole operation was and if this made any money. Again, I just felt embarrassed. My question, Jim, if you had to give an estimate on when AEW gets the plug pulled, when would it be? When the guy in the hoodie quits being giddy.
You know, I got to jump in real quick. That email came in last week.
Yes, it's dated, wait a minute, it's dated November 2nd.
And one of the reasons, and I kicked myself for this, one of the reasons it wasn't on last week's Drive Thru was I'm reading it and I'm saying, this person could be working us. You know what I mean? Like,
you mean you'd seen it?
I saw it and I said to myself, there's no way. Little did I know, and I should have known better. I said, this person could be a mega AEW fan just trying to mess with us, sending us a false report for this match. And it was because of that I didn't read it on last week's Drive Thru. And when I was watching the little bits of this match I actually watched, because I executed my Matt Hardy rule, which is back now, I realized that the email was 100% factual. And I kicked myself. I should have read it on last week's show. That's 100% my fault.
Well, I'm pissed at you for another reason, because I sat down and watched this thing for quite a while.
And by the way, the Rebby Hardy thing, when I worked at Sony Music, that was the Jennifer Lopez thing. When she came in the building, you weren't allowed to make eye contact with her. And when Lauryn Hill came in the building, you weren't allowed to call her Lauren. She was Miss Hill. Those were the two big ones I remember. And then there were people like Ricky Martin who would come in and were just fantastic human beings. And it made you want to help them and work with them.
But don't speak unless you're spoken to.
Don't make eye contact with J-Lo. Which is fine. Just, it gives you more time to look at her ass.
Well, I wish that's very sexist and misogynistic. I wish.
It is.
That's true. I wish that I had not made eye contact with this match. Or I can't say match. Come on. So it's at, obviously, Matt's house out in Cameron, and they just start, and I just wrote down something. Why are there metal garbage cans in the forest? They started this fight where if Sammy had pulled up in a golf cart, but Matt had a drone, and the drone disabled the golf cart, and then Matt's talking like fucking Vincent Price again, and dressed like Beatrice Arthur again. And then they get into this, and they're hitting, and they're bouncing each other off the trees. And the announcers forgot for the first 2 minutes to announce it, or that didn't look like it should have been announced. And then when I heard them doing it, I realized that the announcers talking over it made it worse. It
did.
It did. It made it even worse because now they're in it. It's burying them too. And it's so fucking stupid. And what can they say? So they have to make fun of it.
It was, for AEW, it was Mystery Science Theater commentary.
Well, as a matter of fact, that's where I wrote. JR is really now saying stuff that he says when he's embarrassed by what he's seeing, and he's starting not to give a fuck, and they're giving each other suplexes in the front yard. And they couldn't even do this in daylight, so you wouldn't see all the lighting trees set up in Matt's backyard. But then I realized, well, then the fireworks wouldn't have looked so good if it was daylight. They went into the ring in Matt's yard. At least they're in a ring, but there's tables set up. They got to have tables. This is one of the stupider things that I've seen people risk their health and physical safety on, especially with what happened to Matt before. And then I didn't think it could get rottener, and it got rottener. Matt powerbombed Sammy through a table in the ring in his warehouse or wherever the fucking... No, that was still the outdoor ring. But Tito and Ortiz came out and fucking attacked Matt Hardy. Tito and Santana and Ortiz. Or Tito and Ortiz. And they beat him up. So then Matt, while he's being mugged by these two street thugs, gets a walkie-talkie out from under the ring and calls for help, and you instantly cut to a camera shot. You see a camera inside Private Party's car, and they say, okay, 10-4, like they're on the other end of the walkie-talkie. But then the heels are continuing to just beat the shit out of Matt Hardy. The next time they cut back to Private Party is like 45 seconds or a minute later. They're still in the car. They're like, okay, we got to go now. Well, thanks for being in a fucking hurry. two goddamn nitwits. I'm glad it's not me getting shit kicked out of me. This is embarrassing. And then they finally hit the fucking ring, and I guess that's where they did some cheerleading routines. Private Party and Tito and Ortiz. An entire cheerleading routine with the flips and the yay and the cartwheels. While Matt got fireworks from under the ring and started shooting them in the sky, everybody ducked like it was acid rain, and then Sammy got one and fired him back. But then I think fucking Matt at one point shot fireworks up Sammy's taint. God damn it. You know what? Manscaped isn't even a goddamn sponsor this week. That would have been a segue. Don't burn your taint hair off. Shave it with Manscaped. But anyway, so then suddenly somebody stops Matt Hardy in his tracks, and the guy is a hooded figure who's got a hold of Shane Helms. And he's speaking in a grovelly voice, and they reveals the hood off the robe off the thing. It's Gangrel. And then Private Party came in and jumped on Gangrel and started fighting him. And Matt Hardy and Shane Helms stood there and did some kind of verbal exchange about Hurricanes, like, where you been, Matt? And Matt said, well, it's long-term storytelling. I had to get out of the previous company. That's it. I'm done. I'm going to say this. I watched enough of this to know that everybody involved in it ought to be ashamed of themselves, and I've already written Matt Hardy off. This is why I escaped watching apparently all the shit that they were doing in TNA with the broken Matt Hardy thing. He was doing teleportation or the drone or whatever. I missed all that. I never saw a bit of it because I like the Hardy Boys so much, and I didn't want to change that opinion. And nobody really gave a shit whether we watched Impact or not because nobody else was either. But now that it has been forced in front of me again, not only by the time he came out of the goddamn ice machine from another dimension or whatever, the teleportation rule went in effect. But now, I like Shane Helms. I like him as a wrestler. I like him as a person. And I love his Twitter. So I determined that I was done because if I had watched any more of this, I would not like Shane Helms anymore either. I could tell that as soon as I heard the long-term storyline or long-term storytelling bit. So I watched no more of it. I fast-forwarded. I saw they were in another ring somewhere. I didn't stop to find out what. Everybody involved in whatever the fuck this was should be ashamed and leave the business in disgrace. And I've crossed at least one other old friend off my list, Matt Hardy. And I didn't watch Shane do whatever the fuck that he did that would make me do the same thing. This was fucking embarrassing. It's what I just did to my microphone.
What was that?
That was me spitting on my fucking microphone.
Why would you do that? You have to talk into it for the rest of the show.
Because it won't stink as bad as this match did, and I wanted to spit on this fucking match and everybody involved in it.
You know, I gave Matt Hardy like a little bit of leeway after he got his concussion doing something stupid. And I said, you know what? Maybe now he's going to abandon. Are you wiping the spit off the microphone?
Trying to get the spit off my fucking nice little screen there. I'll have to wipe it up underneath the... Here, I'm wiping this. I'll use some of these notes to wipe this spit up. Continue.
Well, now they'll be even more valuable. I said, you know what? Maybe I'll cool it a little bit with my Matt Hardy ban for all the stupid shit that he's a part of. And, you know, he did a regular promo, and then they got him back with Sammy. I said, oh no. Maybe they won't go back to the broken Matt Hardy shit. And wouldn't you know it...
The best promo he's done since they've been on television was the one where he just spoke as himself.
And then I started watching this, and it was almost instantly I said no. And I fast-forwarded. I stopped at a few points when I saw the hooded figure, when I saw the Hurricane get released from what appeared to be invisible handcuffs. I didn't realize it was a lake. It was so dark, I thought it was a black curtain. And then I realized, oh shit, that's a lake.
I didn't get to the lake.
I didn't even know what was going on. When I stopped the fast-forward and I realized, son of a bitch, that email was on the money, I was mad at myself. But this was garbage. I don't want to see Matt Hardy ever again. This is a waste of Sammy Guevara, bringing him back into this garbage feud. I don't have too many other thoughts I could add to this other than, you know, Jim, when I was done with this pure garbage, I was disgusted with myself, and I felt the need to go into the bathroom and wash up and rinse myself.
Clean yourself
of this filth. I'm talking my body, my hair. I'm talking about after I get out, some nice deodorant.
Your nails.
I couldn't deal with this anymore, and luckily, thanks to our good friends at Hawthorne, I was able to cleanse myself of the filth that was the Elite Deletion.
That's exactly right, folks, and I'll tell you what, we got new friends. We're making new friends all the time. The folks at Hawthorne are our new friends, and they've got products. If you have to watch matches that reek of the stench of grisly death like this one for your line of work, nobody would do this for recreation. But if you have to watch this stuff, you need to visit our fine friends at Hawthorne. Folks, they've got lotions, they've got soaps, they've got a variety of things to clean you from head to toe to make you feel better, smell better. Moisturizers, lotions, and potions. I'm going to tell you, first of all, you go there and they don't just give you what they give anybody. Your orders, your picks, your choices are customized specifically for you from a survey that you take. It's easy. It's not intrusive. What's your favorite drink? How do you like to spend a night out? That type of thing. And then they factor your answers into the results. It's an easy quiz. It's quick. It's fun. And then they recommend things for you, specifically tailored to you. And I'll tell you what, to be honest, I'm cheating a little bit. The face lotion, I can't even pronounce this. I've got it right over here so I can read it, but it contains Centella asiatica and aloe. But it's a medium weight lotion that both moisturizes and hydrates, because I mentioned about my dry skin. And the face lotion, I'm cheating. I'm using it on my elbows. My elbows felt like sandpaper because I'm constantly leaning on something as I address all these Cornette's collectibles on envelopes. No more. My elbows, Brian Last, are as smooth and soft and hydrated as a baby's keister. The folks at Hawthorne, they've got all kinds of... What did you like the best?
I'll tell you what I liked the best. There was a hand soap that they sent me based on me filling out this quiz they have. It's dark rum. I was about to say flavored. I don't know if flavor is the right term.
Well, I don't know. Well, why don't you have Suzanne wash your mouth out, you foul thing, and we'll see if it's flavored.
It is dark rum hand soap that every time I wash my hands with it, I just smell my hands. It smells so good. I will say, on the topic of the lovely Suzanne, she loves the colognes they sent me. There's one they labeled as work and one they labeled as play, and they both smell fantastic. And I feel really good wearing this when I go out. I'm afraid that women are going to rip my clothes off and just...
I think you're fairly safe there, but so if you wear both of them, you can have kind of work in the front and play in the back kind of thing.
I think that may be a bit much. I would conserve these colognes because they're so nice and use one at a time.
Well, you're very conservative anyway. You don't want to drive the women mad. And folks, you can build personalized gifts for other people too. You can give gifts to your friends and family from Hawthorne. Anyway, it's a fun, convenient way to get super high-quality products tailored specifically for men. And they take the risk out of it by giving you free shipping on your order and free returns. If you don't like their products, they'll even retailer them based on the feedback you give them. So get special offers for the holidays going on right now by visiting hawthorne.co. That's Hawthorne, HAWTHORNE.co to check out all the special holiday offers. You will smell so good it'll give people a headache. Holy mackerel, you'll be slicker than cum on a gold tooth. You'll be moisturized, sanitized, homogenized, and pasteurized with Hawthorne.
I love that dark rum.
Yeah, you're sipping on that soap.
I'm not drinking the soap.
Yeah, well, you're drinking the Kool-Aid then.
But every time I burp, there are bubbles. They just come out of my mouth.
I knew a girl in Jackson, Mississippi that had that trouble.
Let's not do that right now.
All righty. Anyway, the next event on the seemingly weeks-long pay-per-view from All Friends Wrestling, can you imagine how much I would have wanted to see MJF versus Chris Jericho back in January or so?
I think January was probably safe. That was before Chris Jericho's Year of Terror. Yeah.
By the time we are literally almost 3 hours into this show already, and this match comes up, and between the fact that I was afraid they were going to break into a duet, I was wanting to like this, but this is where, if you'll notice, this is where the people didn't come back. They saw that long-ass tag team match where they lost the plot on what was going on numerous times, and then they had to watch 20 minutes of a bad home movie on a big screen, right? Did you notice this is where they didn't recover?
I mean, they started getting burned out, like at the beginning of the FTR Young Bucks match. Normally,
I started getting burned out at the beginning of the show, but...
Well, no, but I was going to say, normally the fans would be totally into, those fans would be totally into a Young Bucks match, but it took them a while to get into that match. So, I mean, even at that point in the show, the fans were starting to get a little burned out, or at least a little quiet as it came across on TV or on Bleacher Report. And then the Elite Deletion, which I guess aired on the screen there,
yes,
that seemed to be the final nail in the coffin.
And the people, not only had they in that big open air amphitheater that they can only, it's not their fault, but that they can only put a certain number of people in, but then they're having to watch TV at a live event for 20 fucking minutes, and they had wrestling fatigue. MJF and Jericho start this match. There was nothing left for them to do. Shoulder into the post, done it. Over the top rope, done it. Big bump in the ring, done it. Multiple times of everything. And it's not MJF style to begin with. He's a worker and a heel. And here he's wrestling another heel. Although then I think Chris realized the people such as there were dead and started at some point firing the people up and doing some babyface shit, including a Hurricane Rana off the top rope. But this was not MJF style match. And Chris may have been calling a match to try to get the guy over, but he didn't tailor it to him like our friends at Hawthorne do. It was a match you would have had with almost anybody to get them over if they were the junior heel between the two of you, because that's what it was. It was an old ham heel and a young upcoming heel. And the story they're telling obviously is MJF out heels Jericho and steals one, but you needed to have this goofy of a fucking finish. You had to have a much better match. And by the time they went too long. Jericho got blown up. He was taking shit that he couldn't even react to. Did you notice that toward the end? He would take a fucking move and just kind of be standing there stunned. He was going through the motions, but he couldn't get any oomph in anything. He was blown up. Because they didn't need to do all the shit that they did, but they needed to do something else. MJF had to sell for a while, stall, wait on him at some points. It didn't work. MJF has his best matches against a baby face that you can have some sympathy for and get behind for when he does his heel shit. And every wrestling move had already been done before they got in the ring, and this was not a shining example of either an MJF match or a Jericho match, because the styles did not work together here. Am I looking at something different? Did you see this as a style clash and not the best work by either man?
I have to be honest here. And this is where doing stupid shit week after week turns off at least some of the audience being me. I fast forwarded through most of this match because I don't need to see Chris Jericho anymore. Chris Jericho has go away heat with me. He's just been involved in stupid thing after stupid thing all year. I don't need to hear a stupid song anymore. I don't need to see him blowed up in the ring because he can't fucking cut it anymore. He obviously doesn't take things seriously in terms of working out anymore. And I hate the way they've used MJF here. I've been so high on him, and he has been so misused. This feud alone has just been awful that I went right to the finish. I'll give them credit. I thought the finish was all right. I did not pay any attention. I can't say I liked it or didn't like it, because their song and dance routine And the stupidity of this ongoing MJF Chris Jericho series of angles or series of promos, whatever the hell this is, has led it to the point where I just don't want to see either guy right now. I probably don't want to see Jericho anymore, period. But MJF,
you're
young.
Not going to leave me. Now, I'm getting kind of pissed now. I don't mind you zipping through the girls' matches. But when I'm left all alone to watch this shit, I'm starting to get hot. Here's the thing. The finish wasn't bad if they'd had a good match. But since they didn't have a good match, the finish sucked. The finish for the folks who didn't see it, and hopefully many of you are out there. Wardlow gives MJF the ring. MJF swings and misses. Jericho gets the bat thrown in from Hager. While the referee's distracted, MJF flips Jericho off and falls down like Jericho hit him with the bat, even though he didn't. Referee Aubrey turns around, sees the bat. Jericho's begging off from the referee, and MJF rolls him up 1, 2, 3. Yes, so they're telling the story that the fucking little cocky heel out-cheated the old veteran heel. That's fine if they'd had a good match. But they didn't have that good a match, and this was a sports entertainment finish that should have been done on television as an angle, if that, to lead to something. Because as far as Jericho getting MJF over, he did not here. All he did was show the people that MJF cheats better, but as far as getting him over as a main event level talent, it was a rotten match, and he didn't cater it to MJF. He rolled around in orange juice for the guy that sticks his hands in his pockets. He was doing flat jobs in the middle of the ring. But he can only do a sports entertainment finish for MJF. They're going way too far into storyline and not enough in to get the other guy over first. And then everybody hugged. Everybody hugged.
Hey, let me ask you something. Obviously, when AEW first got on TV, the big program they were building towards was Cody versus Jericho. But Cody was already over. With that fan base, Cody was already super over.
Right.
Has Chris Jericho gotten anyone over in AEW?
No. Well, the only... He wasted so long with pockets, and I mean, they're going to cheer for the goof, but it's not like you can then turn around and say, okay, now he's a world championship level contender. I get Tony Khan can put pockets in world title matches, but that won't make anybody like it. So no, nobody. Final match. And I'll tell you what.
Would your thoughts about that match been any different if it was earlier in the show?
Yes, because at least I wouldn't have seen everything, but still it was not a good match because there was a style clash or whatever the fuck they were trying to do. It was not, MJF did not look as confident or as accomplished as he usually does in that match, working with a veteran. Something was off. Now, let me ask you this. There is one more match on this program. Brian, what do you think the odds are that I fast-forwarded any section of this contest?
Oof, I actually am not sure. Typically, you wouldn't want to watch garbage. However, this was the final match, the main event, technically the main event, for the AEW World's Heavyweight Championship. Good promo on Wednesday night leading into this. Oof, I don't know. I want to say you didn't fast forward it because you had to see it, even though we'll certainly talk about what kind of spectacle it was. I'm going to say you didn't fast forward.
Well, I'm going to say that until we get there, you should take your business to a professional. MyBookie, if you want to make a bet, let the people at MyBookie tell you how to do it, because by gum, they apparently are smarter than you are, as you'll soon find out. Folks, whether it's late fall college ball, the NBA bubble, UFC Fight Island, 2020 has been a year unlike any other, and that's why you need a sports book with offers unlike any other. So at MyBookie, the odds boost, the lightning deals, the free bets await you all season long. Turkey Day, Thanksgiving is right around the corner. It's going to be NFL action. So whether you're a first-time customer or you've been playing with MyBookie for years, I've been playing with my dinghy for years, but MyBookie is new in my life, folks. There's no shortage of value that you can find in the thousands of game lines, unique prop bets, and contests that they offer every single week. You can sign up or get reloaded today. I encourage you to get reloaded today, folks. Find an edge, make your bet, and get paid. They've got a full-fledged casino platform. You get access to all the classic table, slot, and card games. And at MyBookie, the doors never close. And there's nobody snotting all over you next to you, giving you a pandemic. Make the right play and sign up today at MyBookie and use promo code DRIVE to get your deposit matched halfway, all the way up to $1,000. Folks, here's a wrinkle. You put in $200, they're going to match you with another 100. If you were already planning to bet this season, this is free money. Winning season at MyBookie. Come join in on the fun. Use the promo code DRIVE. If you had gone to MyBookie, Brian, and bet that I fast-forwarded part of this, you would have been correct. But I'll tell you what and why when we get there.
So I would have lost money because I actually, when thinking about it beforehand, said to myself, I think he probably watched the match. I was wrong.
Well, I tried. And I gave it all I had. Here's the thing. AEW title match, I Quit match, Moxley against Eddie Kingston. We've talked about liking Eddie Kingston. I believe Eddie Kingston. He looks real. He talks real. He seems nuts. He looks like shit physically. And that works for him because he looks like a goddamn mechanic that would go nuts and fucking bash you in the head with a wrench outside of fucking Bayonne, New Jersey, right? So I can buy that. And he has passion and emotion in what he does, and he's loud, and he cuts the promo. Moxley is a great promo. We've talked about it. He looks better physically than Eddie Kingston. We always just have a problem because he always has outlaw indie style matches that just aren't good. But the question was here in my mind, and I was going to give them every opportunity to prove to me that they could do this. Can these two guys have a match after all the buildup, all the promos? Their friends gone astray. They've got a backstory of 18 years. There's heavy animosity. Can these guys have a match that looks like a fight? And I determined that I would sit back and watch this and see if they could do that. Because we've proven it can be done. Walter and Ilya just did that. One of the greatest matches, greatest displays of the art of worked combat that I've ever seen in any era. And it was a legitimate, realistic-looking fight. Right? So I'm going to see if these two guys with the promos and all the realness that they have can have me a fight. I hate that I skip the entrances because Moxley takes so long because he comes from 5 miles away. I was trying to, because we were 3 hours and 10 minutes, by the way, into this show before these entrances for the main event even started. And that was from the start of the pay-per-view. I heard they did a pregame show that I did not watch. So we're easily over 4 hours into those people sitting there in that building. So I zipped through the entrances, and I guess now that the announcer said Eddie Kingston wore a Tracy Smothers shirt. So I hate that I skipped that. Did you see it?
I didn't see the shirt. I heard the conversation after the fact.
Before the match starts, I'll say I don't like Eddie Kingston's ring gear. Why is it so clean and spotless and bright and baggy? He doesn't look like a crazy mechanic that would bash you in the head with a wrench outside of Bayonne, New Jersey. He looks too clean and too bright and too baggy. But immediately, I was going to give Moxley all the opportunity in the world, and he has to be the one leading this because he's the veteran, he's the big name. If they could pull this off, and immediately, instead of having a grudge fight between guys that hate each other, they start doing the stupid strong style wrestling bullshit. You chop me, I'll chop you. You slap me, I'll slap you. Can anybody watch Walter and Ilya to see the difference? They weren't standing there letting each guy do what they wanted to do. They were having a fight at the time. You can see it, Brian, right?
Yeah. I love that match.
But I'm not just saying it was great, but I'm saying that other guys can watch and see what to do. They don't have to stand there and let each other hit them. And then after they did that for a while, Moxley had to do a dive. And then they got to go to the floor and they got to bounce off the chairs and the guardrails. The same things he always does. Then they go further into the arena and take some bumps on concrete. And the referee's out there doesn't even have a microphone when he's asking if they quit. Never did use a microphone. At one point, Excrement was meandering on about a story about his outlaw days when he took a road trip to Detroit with these people that they're talking about. So everybody would know that he was once a wrestler, because otherwise people are like, who the fuck is this guy? They went so long without using the ring that the announcers got to have a nice long conversation about Tracy Smothers, because nothing was fucking happening. Somebody was trying to set up chairs into a shop class project, I think, at that point. That was where Moxley got some color when he got thrown into the ring post, but then brought in a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire and hit Eddie Kingston with it 3 times. And Eddie Kingston was still conscious. And then Moxley put the bat in Eddie Kingston's face and pulled back on it. Why? You idiot. You've got a fucking ball bat in your hand. Already, if you hit the motherfucker 3 times and he's still not down, you might want to run. But why would you then put the bat in front of his face and push the barbed wire into his face? Just hit him in the head with the fucking bat. God damn it, you blithering simpletons. Have we lost the whole way on this thing so far that you think now this is not going to be the last time that they didn't take an object and hit an opponent? They took the opponent and hit the object with the opponent. So the guy that just got hit 3 times with a fucking baseball bat then ducks another shot and suplexes the guy who hit him with the bat twice. And I wrote, this is Ian Rotten's freak show garbage wrestling with a budget. And then that's when Kingston set the bat down on the mat and grabbed Moxley and tossed him down onto the bat. Moxley didn't even know how to take the bump. This match at this point was everything that was wrong with wrestling before the gymnasts and the cosplayers took over and made it silly too. Didn't used to be silly. The garbage deathmatch stuff was just stupid and distasteful. And nobody wants to see that kind of shit except this freak show clientele they've got. At least it wasn't silly. Now they've made everything silly too. So now they're doing the garbage deathmatch in the main event while they've done silly the rest of the undercard. Kingston wraps the wire around his fist and kept punching Moxley with it. I have determined that John Moxley, Dean Ambrose, Tits McGee, whatever his real name is a complete and total waste of time in any wrestling promotion. He worked for the biggest company in the world for years, worked alongside some of the greatest talent in the world, learned absolutely fuck all, dick all of shit about wrestling or the wrestling business, and comes back to a company that he could have possibly made a difference in and just brings more garbage deathmatch wrestling to them. Instead of teaching them to be professional, he's gone back to their fucking indie outlaw level. Then Kingston built a shop class project with 2 chairs, set him up in the ring, and of course Moxley turned around and suplexed him on him. And then Eddie Kingston goes out on the floor, gets a bag from underneath the ring, comes in the ring, pours it out. Guess what it is? Thumbtacks. And that'll be it. That's where I left it. Goodbye and delete immediately. So I was not tempted to go back and watch any more of it. If they're going to give me a main event on pay-per-view for $50 fucking of 2 guys who are the equivalent of the guys who bite the heads off live chickens at the fucking carnival sideshow, I'm going to leave early and go get a funnel cake. Soon as I saw the thumbtacks, as that's it, I'm done. It's hopeless. What did I miss, or did you see any other rest of it?
I don't know about a funnel cake, but I was tempted to go to the Zeppeli truck. I watched it. I hated it. I've said it before. I'm going to keep saying it because it keeps coming true. I hate Moxley in the ring. Eddie Kingston, I think, is one of the best promos in the business. I'm not sure how I feel about him in the ring.
That's the thing. You get guys you like, and then they have matches like this. You don't want to see them anymore.
I know. I hated this. I hated this match. The match ended where Moxley took the barbed wire that Eddie Kingston had taken off the bat to put on his fist, and he wrapped it around his arm, and then put that choke on Eddie Kingston again, and Eddie Kingston quit to the choke while Moxley had the barbed wire wrapped around his arm. And then Kenny Omega came out to tease the big rematch. It was a year ago that they had their famous Chris Cruz championship match in Baltimore. And of course, Moxley won that one, which perfectly sets up Omega beating him for the title a year and a half later. This was bad. Now, with that said, I had 3 matches I really liked on the show. With AEW, there is a curve. You have to accept that there's a lot of bad shit. So I didn't hate this show tremendously, although, now that I'm looking at my list here.
Yeah, 4 hours to see a match and a half.
I liked Omega versus Page.
And to have to watch, not only to have to watch cinematic horse shit, but then a fucking outlaw level garbage death match for a main event world title. The pit.
I'm starting to think it's the only thing Moxley can do.
Well, that's apparent now. That's why I said he spent all those years in the big leagues, didn't learn a goddamn thing. He ought to be ashamed of himself. His wife's probably smarter about wrestling than he is. And it was a mud show, literally. At one point, they had to work Matt giving Sammy Guevara a bump in the mud so that he could say, "Get out of the mud, Sammy. The old folks will think this is a mud show." And that actually got a pop from the people in the fucking arena because they all obsess over me.
Yeah, by the way, no one ever heard that term before you started using it nonstop.
Well, everybody in the business, in the wrestling business, had heard that term. It's just something that nobody uses anymore because nobody's in the fucking wrestling business.
You popularized it without any question.
I'm not denying that. It's just, once again, it's not that I made it up. It's just that the rest of these fucking cretins have no knowledge of what came before them in their own profession. Therefore, it's new to them. But they had a mud show. They really had the mud. They had to put the mud show spot in the Matt Hardy match also, just to make sure. It's a parody of wrestling. But the thing that I can't understand above all of this, and I'll close this whole fiasco up. The thing that I can't understand is that they're obviously parodying pro wrestling. They obviously don't want anybody to take this seriously. They're going entirely for an audience that thinks that it's supposed to be a big goof on everybody's part. And they're killing each other. They're fucking damaging each other. They're hurting each other and injuring each other, taking all these bumps and using all these things and doing all this shit. They're fucking knocked out weekly on live TV. They're having surgery right and left. Just to do a goof? Just to make people laugh? And you're really hurting yourself. The guys who knew what this art was about, and it was an art, not anymore, they made people believe they were killing each other and didn't hurt each other at all. In rare instances. Now, it's a prerequisite. You're going to take goofy bumps onto unpadded surfaces and hurt yourself either right then or as a cumulative effect to do something that everybody's supposed to laugh at and not take seriously. I hope that I never live long enough to be so demented in my thinking that I will damage my body for people to laugh at me, not even with me, but at me. That's fucking pathetic.
If you would just chill out and be quiet for a little while, you could probably get a check out of this.
Jim,
You know what?
You know what I'd like? I'd just like a decent breakfast.
I knew it.
I beat you to it. I don't want a pat on the back for influencing Pennsylvania's electorate and saving the free world. I don't want to chill out and keep my mouth shut and get an unwanted consultant's job. I just want a good, tasty, but healthy breakfast. And our fine friends at Magic Spoon can provide that very thing. Folks, when You liked cereal when you were a kid, but it was full of sugar and carbs and junk that you shouldn't eat. You're trying to cut down on the carbs, the sugar, and the unhealthy food. But now with Magic Spoon, you can have your cake and eat it too, or at least your breakfast. 0 sugar, 11 grams of protein, only 3 net grams of carbs in each serving of Magic Spoon. The greatest taste in cereal on the planet. You can choose from the best-selling cocoa, fruity, frosted, and blueberry flavors. I understand they got some new stuff now, peanut butter and cinnamon. Holy shit, this has slipped under my radar. I've got to get peanut butter and cinnamon cereal. Anyway, it tastes amazing. You can eat it like trail mix. It's a snack for the kids. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb, GMO-free, but tastes good. Got plenty of taste in it. Go to magicspoon.com/Jim to build your own custom variety box and try it today. Magicspoon.com. Use that promo code Jim at checkout to get free shipping. That's the best cereal in the world with a 100% happiness guarantee. If you don't like it for any reason, they refund your money, no questions asked. Magicspoon.com/Jim. Use the code Jim for free shipping. Get a good breakfast if all these Outlaw Mud Show wrestlers haven't already turned your stomach.
Well, Jim, let's get at least a few questions in. We've gone a while, and I don't know how much longer we're going to go here today.
We did what AEW did. We went too long.
This first question was sent to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Fred Bucks. Happy holidays. This is Fred from the Fred Bucks WWE 2K YouTube channel.
Headlined by Penta L0OM Zorro's Revenge.
Love the shows you guys put out every week. It's the best thing going. You guys kill it consistently. Quick question. Did you hear during the AEW Full Gear media call at the 12:30 timestamp, Cody Rhodes backpedaling on his statement about AEW being a sports-based product, and now stating that what he actually meant was that only his matches would be sports-based? By the way,
that's not what Tony Khan said, was it?
No. No,
okay, I'm glad we answered it. Well, thank you for your question. That's pretty much the answer. Bullshit. Bullshit.
What do you think Cody thinks about the direction things have gone?
I'm sure he's trying to save what's left of his integrity by saying, well, no, I didn't mean all these other yahoos. I meant me, because I actually do treat this seriously, but it's too late. If you come out of the clown car, you're one of the clowns, right? So Tony Khan said sports-based presentation. I know everybody's beating that to death, but that was what we were promised. The cable guide here said, I haven't looked at it lately, but for months it said, a new series bringing analytics and statistics into the sport. Sports-based presentation. We're not going to do gaga goofy shit like you've been sick of in the WWE. And that was from the owner. That was supposed to be the mission statement, the vision of the thing. Now, a year later, it's become such a dog and pony show, as Ole Anderson would say, that one of its top stars has to try to divorce himself from the insanity and just say, well, just look at my stuff. I'm a real sportsman in the middle of a goddamn Benny Hill sketch. So, as Ole Anderson, his favorite phrase, dog and pony show. Well, remember when somebody sent me this clip on Twitter? What was Brian, you've got a photographic memory. What was the event or the incident or the reason why that they were all together where Vince McMahon tried to introduce Linda to Ole Anderson?
That was, I believe, when the lawsuit was going on.
That's right.
Because Ole tried to prevent Vince from being able to take over Georgia Championship Wrestling, and Vince would go down there, and the first time Vince went up to him and Ole told him, whatever, go fuck yourself.
No, that's where I was going with that.
That was the first time when it was just Vince, and then Vince came down Like the second time.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's what I was going. The first time he met Vince, Ole said, "Yeah, Vince, go fuck yourself." And then the second time, that's what the clip was. He was telling the story that Vince came up to him and said, "I'd like you to meet my wife, Linda." And Ole said, "Well, fuck her and fuck you."
And you know, it's very similar to you in AEW. From what I had read, that's where Vince said, "You will never work for the WWE. You would have gotten a deal to come in." You know, he would have. Wanted Ole to come work there, and Ole's like, "I'm not working for you."
Ole had never in his life had that ambition to work for Vince McMahon, and he just saw the guy that screwed him out of his fucking company. And the thing is, Ole, the two things you can say a lot of things about Ole. He was a grumpy old man, and he did fuck that booking up in 1990, and we've gone over that a large part because he didn't want to die on a bunch of Jim Herd's hills. But two things you can say about him. He saved his money, and he didn't fucking compromise his principles. He was not about to do fucking goofy bullshit, and he wasn't about to put up with people that fucked him around. So you got to admire that in a guy. What was the question?
It was about sports-based presentation.
Well, Cody, that horse has left the barn, cowboy.
You know, it's funny. Have you seen Tony Khan lately?
No, I've seen enough, thank you. Has he changed?
What I was going to say is I saw an image from the post-event, post-pay-per-view. I guess they did a Zoom conference call, so it's like a video, so you see him there. And we read that letter earlier about him running around all excited in his hoodie. When AEW first started, the only images you saw of Tony Khan were him in a suit, him with a tie, and he's like degenerated since then.
They've all just given, they're all a bunch of fucking bums hanging out at the goddamn playground now.
Except Cody.
I'll
give him credit, except Cody.
I wonder if he has some buyer's remorse about it. Jeez, he found the dream scenario where he had a guy that could finance a wrestling company as good as anybody in the world, but the problem is he has to look around him and he's the meat in an idiot sandwich.
Well, on the topic of Cody, this next question Jim sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com is from DJ in Toronto. I saw this pop up on my news feed, and we all know Jim's political ideologies, but Cody Rhodes said in a recent interview he is likely to retire from wrestling in another 5 years and run for the Senate in his home state of Georgia.
Oh, boy.
Quote, "I'm 35, and I said I only wanted to wrestle for 5 more years," said Cody. "I have political aspirations.
Oh, boy.
I would love to run for the Senate in the great state of Georgia. I want to help with the sphere of influence that I've created. What does Jim think of this? Thank you and keep up the good work."
Please don't. Please don't. That's the only thing I can think about that. Please don't. I don't know whether he's a Democrat or Republican. I don't know what he thinks about politics. Just please don't. County commissioner. Don't try to be the state senator. They're about to spend $500 million for the Senate race, the 2 runoffs in January for our international listeners, because that will determine control of the Senate. So both parties and everybody in them are going to be trying to run these 2 Democratic senators across the finish line in Georgia, and that's big shit. And you can change the world when you get in positions like that. And I think Cody is the best wrestler in AEW. Please don't try to become a fucking senator. Jesus Christ. Can anybody just stick with their area of expertise, please?
How do you think Cody would do with a stump speech?
Well, he'd do great. That's the problem. Is sometimes the people that can talk, or the people that the folks perceive can talk, get elected instead of the people can actually do the fucking job. I don't know that Cody has been immersed in politics. Isn't that like my first job in politics? I want to be state senator. Isn't that like I like basketball, watching it on television, so I think I'll play for the Celtics?
I think he should go for governor, not senator, because I'm sure Brandy would love to be the first woman of Georgia.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Georgia with Cody Rhodes. And Brandy, that's me.
Well, Jim, several questions have come in about a recent Twitter exchange with one of your favorite people,
Oh, boy.
Austin Aries, or as he's now known on Twitter, Daniel Austin Healy, who apparently went back and forth and...
Or if, as he's known in the locker room when people get a taste of his attitude, Awful Aries.
He apparently had an exchange on Twitter where, in my eyes, he was made to look like a fool with Bob Saget, of all people.
I know.
Did you see this?
Somebody sent it to me. Did the thing, they copied the tweet and sent it to me. I'm like, wait a minute. Austin Aries and Bob Saget are having a fucking joust. And Saget's slapping him down. Apparently now Aries, the turnip man, the plant-powered former wrestler who now apparently is selling some kind of snake oil on online from looking at the various health supplements he's got. He doesn't.
Is he really doing that?
Apparently, if you look at his Twitter, because I clicked on the thing and I said, well, I want to follow this chain of conversation between him and Bob Saget, of all people, comedian. And all of his Twitter he's retweeting stuff about these proteins and plant-based and health foods and blah, blah, blah. It's a scam. He's a traveling medicine show on the internet because, he dumbed himself out of position in the rest of the wrestling world. But he's telling Bob Saget is saying, he's not addressing, first of all, Austin Aries, obviously. He's a major Hollywood star. He's saying, hey, I've known some people that had COVID and passed away and got real sick. Please wear your mask. A public service announcement.
Well, specifically because after the election, although many of us are very happy with the results, I personally wouldn't go out in the streets and celebrate right now.
No.
Even though the people you're seeing are predominantly wearing masks, it's a good time to not be around lots of people. There's a pandemic.
You can understand jubilation. People are, they're ecstatic that we've got rid of Ding Dong, the pig is gone. So they're going out. They're still wearing masks, but they're going out in the streets. I wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it. But you can understand that versus somebody's mad because they can't go to the tanning salon.
And that was Bob Saget's point was, I have the tweet right here. Everyone out there safely celebrating, please wear masks. We don't need more COVID super spreading. And you guys don't want to follow the bad examples we are all still witnessing this year. This COVID shit is real. That was what triggered Austin Aries.
Well, since you have that tweet, can you read the tweet from the diminutive turnip muncher?
Austin Aries replied to TV's Danny Tanner of Full House with, you get paid for this ad? The 99.6% survival rate is real too. Another sad celebrity shill pushing the fear agenda. To which Bob Saget replied, Dear Daniel, I have a few friends...
Because he has no idea who this fucking clown is. He knows he's got a blue check mark because Aries paid for that. But Dear Daniel.
Dear Daniel, I have a few friends who almost died from COVID, and they are middle-aged and were healthy. I find fact and anti-science deniers incredibly sad, but I could still respect your opinion and open to discuss unless you don't talk to celebrity shills. And then, of course, Aries now sees an opening. I'd love to have an open discussion with you. I also find fact and anti-science deniers sad. It seems we may disagree on whose facts and science to believe. It's also not lost on me that most opinions on this virus are directly related and colored by their political affiliation.
You think? Because the people on the positive side of history who want to do something, the Democrats recognize that they should do what the doctors and the scientists say that they should do, and that's why they do it. And the gullible rube suckers who follow the other fellow were not wearing masks, not social distancing, specifically as a sign of disobedience to what the smart people wanted everybody to do. Don't do what those smart people say. Stick with us. I'm not saying that Aries is a hillbilly, fucking snaggletooth, knuckle-dragging, mouth-breathing cretin from the wilds of Wyoming somewhere. I'm saying he's one of these people who's too smart for his own good because he thinks he's smarter than he is. And by the way, the survival rate is not 99.6 or whatever. I think they said 97% now is the way it's working out. So basically, if everybody in the country gets it, that'd only be about 8 or 9 million people, I think they said. Maybe 7 million that'll just croak and be gone. But all the rest of us can still deal with the ongoing lung scarring and lingering after effects, or we can just cover our fucking faces up and stay the fuck away from each other. But old Austin Healy there is too goddamn stubborn because he thinks he's a lot just like he was as a wrestler. He was good and thought he was a lot better than he was. Now he's a smart guy and he thinks he's a whole lot smarter than he is. That's why he sits in the corner and eats turnips.
Well, Jim, on the topic of smart guys, before we wrap things up, any thoughts on the news that broke as we were recording? The death of Alex Trebek.
Oh, I saw that right before we went on the air here, and I hate that. I love Jeopardy. He's synonymous with that program. He's just so smooth and such a nice man. You could tell everybody that worked with him liked him. But I mean, he's 80 and he had cancer. So I guess we should all do that bad. But it's sad. But he worked and stayed in it right up to the end. You got to admire that in a guy. And he looked good for 80. Fuck, look at Jake. He's barely 60. He's not even 65.
You see Jake announced that he has COPD?
I didn't even know he could spell it.
He announces he has COPD, and then his appearance on the pay-per-view in that promo we did with Lance Archer, he's singing some song about cigarettes.
I zipped through the promo, I think, to be honest with you. I didn't see that either, but I don't know. R.I.P. Alex Trebek.
All right, well, let's wrap things up. It's been a tiring episode of the Drive Thru. Of course, you can listen to the Jim Cornette.
Did you spank it?
Well, you can listen to the Jim Cornette Experience wherever you find your favorite podcast. New episode this Friday, and we'll be back again next Monday right here on the Drive Thru, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Go through the archives today by becoming a patron. Patreon.com/Cornette. For only $5 a month, you get in the door and you get access to the archives, the classic episodes of the Drive Thru and the Experience, going back to the beginning in November of 2013, with new episodes added to the archive each and every Sunday night. Patreon.com/Cornette. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel, tinyurl.com/official Corny YouTube, or just go to YouTube and search for Jim Cornette. It'll be the first thing that pops up for full episodes, clips of episodes, and omnibus collections, all with the fantastic and exclusive Travis Heckel artwork that is so popular. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel.
That's exactly right. Folks, come on over, sit down on my lap. We'll talk about the first thing that pops up.
You can follow Jim on Twitter and see what pops up at the Jim Cornette. You can follow me on Twitter at Great Brian Last. You can hear me on the 605 Superpodcast at 605pod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Don't forget Cornette's Collectibles at jimcornette.com. The holidays are approaching. What's going on at Cornette's Collectibles, Jim?
A lot of stuff on sale, Ollie.
At jimcornette.com.
And it's flying off the shelves. Yes, Cornette's Collectibles.
The Drive Thru is brought to you by the law office of Stephen P. New. If you get hit with a DVD that has flown off the shelves, call Stephen today. 888-692-8084. Get even with Stephen at newlawoffice.com. But until Friday on the Experience, and
one more thing.
Oh.
I don't want anybody to feel the need to send me any gifts, to recognize me in public, to possibly nominate me for any Man of the Year awards because of what I've done, changing the future of the world with my work in Pennsylvania. It's my public duty. I want no back patting in public, possibly in private, some small cash donations, but it's something I needed to do for the good of all mankind. I bear this responsibility humbly.
Well, until next week here on the Drive-Thru, for the swing vote, Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last. Tally-ho!
My vote could even swing both ways.